What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Logan's getting lucky tonight, motherfucker! And welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Joel and I will take a look at the world of movie news and movie trailers that have dropped throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys. And we will have our reviews of the new Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson action comedy, drama, whatever flick, The Hitman's Bodyguard, and Steven Soderbergh has come out of retirement to grace us with Logan Lucky. So what will we think about one of them? What will we think about both of them? Are we going to hate one, like both, hate both? What's going to happen? Well, you're going to have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast, where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about everything and anything, everything, whatever you want. It's all about movies. That is what we're here to do, is talk about them as passionately as possible to make you as passionate as we are. And if you're new to the show, welcome. What we typically do is we look over some movie news and trailers throughout the week. We will commentate on them for you guys, and we'll also review whatever the hell's coming out for the weekend. And this weekend is looking pretty good. We're going to be reviewing the Hitman's Bodyguard and Logan Lucky, so it's going to be definitely a mix for sure. But so before we begin, please spread this around and let people know that this is the definitive movie podcast, and you guys all always just love listening to it and shit. By the way, I'm Chase Lee. It's been a long morning. I should have introduced that earlier, but but at this point, the fact that we're almost at 200 episodes, I think it's the same people that listen every single week, and we always appreciate it. So I'm Chase Lee, one of your co-hosts, like I said, and I am always never alone unless Joel wants to divorce me. And speaking of Joel is over there in the corner. Joel, how are we doing this week?
We're over. I'm just kidding. I'm good.
Why would you do that on air? Why the fuck would you do that when we're recording, you bastards?
I'm just kidding. I'm pretty good. It's been a long week at work. At any point in this week, there were 3 people on our staff who were gone, and there are only 8 people on the staff. So it's been 5 of us trying to run the store. But it's been a fun week.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. On Monday it rained heavily, and as you guys know, I walk, and so that was, my clothes were soaked. I looked like I swam in the pool and walked into work, and people made fun of me. It was like 6th grade all over again. But luckily, my work of establishment has a dryer, so I dried my clothes, and that was exciting, and that was my week. And also, I started the first episode of The Defenders, Joel, on Netflix, and so far I like it. I need to finish it, but that's kind of my streaming ventures or whatnot, and of course just been trying to catch up on a bunch of shit I've missed, and watched another horror film on Netflix, and watched 3 movies yesterday, so just chugging along, if you will. So this is Joel's week. He did the notes, so Joel, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over to you. So Joel, spin that shit.
Yeah, so this has actually been a fairly light week for news. Not for trailers, we'll get to those. But in terms of news, there were a couple of big items, and that was basically it. So I've thrown in a couple of controversy type things to spice it up a little bit. But the first bit of news is genuine news, and this is very interesting. So we learned back in, I think, April, that Lucasfilm was going to be announcing a couple of Star Wars spin-offs, and we've gotten a glimpse into what those are. One of them is a spin-off about Obi-Wan Kenobi, who, of course, was played by Alec Guinness in the original series, and Ewan McGregor in the prequels. And so they're going to make a solo film about him, about his origin. And it's going to, not going to be directed, but they are in talks to direct with, of all people, Stephen Daldry, who is famous for kind of divisive Oscar bait fare. He made Billy Elliot back in 2000, The Hours. A couple years later, he did that really unpopular, I didn't see it, but Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. a couple of years ago, and he's kind of just been in this weird mode of like very quiet period pieces, or just character dramas, and so they're talking to him, which is interesting because it doesn't seem, from first glance that he would be a director who would fit in this universe. I mean, maybe, but whatever the case, this is interesting news. And then the other bit is that they're going to be doing a Jabba the Hutt solo movie. Here's the thing, guys. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I am. I've made that clear on the show. While I like the idea of an Obi-Wan, origin movie, I feel like we've learned everything about him. And nobody, even Star Wars fans right now, are interested in a Jabba the Hutt solo movie. So I don't really know if these are necessary, and I know that that's surprising coming from me, the big Star Wars, crazy nut fanatic that I am. But I just don't think we need these. I know that there's a lot of material, but I want them to maybe do original stories, Star Wars stories. We've only gotten one, and that's Rogue One. And we're about to have a Han Solo origin, but it just feels like they're kind of going back to what we know, and I think that they need to branch off into original characters, new stories, and all of that. Obviously, I'm excited for anything Star Wars. I'll see it if it's some random low budget thing that's been projected via flashlight onto a grimy bathroom in a closed down high school. I would watch it there. I'm down for anything with Star Wars, but it just feels like these aren't necessary. And so I'm interested. I know that you're kind of a casual fan, Chase. Are you at all interested in these?
All right. Well, you are right. I am a casual fan. I look forward to anything that Lucasfilm wants to put out in this universe, so we'll go see it regardless. I'm not one of these people that boycott whatever the fuck they want to put out or whatever. But as far as an Obi-Wan movie goes, that was expected. I mean, this thing has been rumored around ever since they announced Han Solo, because that's what people were demanding. They were like, "Well, what about Obi-Wan Kenobi? He's got that past and shit. Like, we want to see it." And it's like, okay, cool. Like, if they make it, sure, I'll be down for it. The questionable one is definitely Jabba the Hutt. And I can tell you right now, they'll definitely find someone to play Jabba the Hutt. Steve Bannon is currently has a lot more free time now. Sorry. Hey, listen, folks. We can have fun on this podcast, and if people on the right can make fun of me, then I can throw a couple jabs every now and then. Anyways, the Jabba the Hutt thing. Listen, he's like a weird, goopy space mobster. Like, I mean, yeah, he's probably got the cool story and everything, but do I really want to see 2 hours of like a floating pile of mucus, like just talking? No, I really don't. Like, it's, yeah, my one criticism for Lucasfilm, it always has been ever since The Force Awakens has been announced, Joel, is that they gotta expand. They do, and like Star Wars is not like this like small group Skywalker thing that's never going to be explored beyond that. No, this is a completely like set up galaxy and universe. Like, why don't we go explore a little bit? Why don't we take some risk? And why don't we go introduce new characters and follow them or whatever? I just, at some point, they're going to have to switch it up, because if they keep throwing the same shit, even you, Joel, as a hardcore Star Wars fan, is going to start to notice that, which you already are starting to do. You're like, do we really need that? So I think, they keep pumping these out, and a lot of Star Wars fans are like kind of stepping up and be like, I don't really know about that. Maybe they'll kind of change course and do something different. But for me, I don't care on either one of them. But if I had to pick one and axe the other and bury it in a ditch somewhere, I'm obviously going to go with Obi-Wan. As if they get, Ewan McGregor back to play the role, I'm fine with it. He has that presence of an Obi-Wan, and he was one of the more enjoyable parts about the prequels. So if they hire him to go do that, I'm fine with it. Jabba the Hutt, no. Jabba the Hutt looks like that thing that you would discover when you come home after a long day of walking. You take your shoes off, you flip your shoe over, and you notice this like really disgusting like piece of like green gum on your shoe. Like that's what Jabba the Hutt is. We don't need to be seeing a movie based on that. I'm sorry. So no on one, okay on the other.
I totally agree. I with Jabba, it's especially weird because of the nature of the character. Is a bad guy who speaks really slowly, and another.
So the movie's gonna be 4 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, it would be so annoying trying to watch an entire movie of him. I mean, there's appeal to the character as this, scoundrel who's really bad and is a gangster on the sidelines of another story, but making one about him, I mean, I'm really like maybe for nerd reasons I'm curious about how he got into it, but I'm not really curious to see a movie about it, and it's just kind of getting to the point where it's just a little fan servicey to me, in the way that that stuff like making episodes is not, because obviously that's also fan service, but that's the more respectful kind of we're continuing a story thing. This is we're going to branch off onto something that's completely like extraneous. And there's really no use for us to tell this story. We just want to tell it because we have some money and because the character. And it's just it's that kind of fan service that annoys me a bit.
And just one quick thing, when I watch all these Star Wars films, and this goes for A Force Awakens and Rogue One, is that they bounce from like planet to planet, and they'll go to like 5 different planets in 5 minutes. Why don't we, this is just a thought, Joel, why don't we just pinpoint one of those planets and kind of explore it a little bit? Like, let's go do another story on one planet and kind of focus there instead of, hopping around all over the place. That would be more interesting to me. And plus, they have enough money to do this shit. They have enough money to take a risk. And if you slap the Star Wars name on it, I'm sorry, but people will go see it. People will flock to it. So if you have that type of power, Joel, why don't you try something different? You already know people are going to come see it, so why don't you do something different? If it doesn't work out and it's not received well, you can bounce back from it. Hell, you bounce back from The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. You can bounce back from anything. So try something different, Lucasfilm. Doesn't work, then I guess go back to the well for one movie and try something. Just kind of go back and forth until something clicks with someone, and then, or a group of people, and then kind of go forward with it. So, yeah, Jabba the Hutt, no, don't be doing that. However, the next piece of news is half of it I'm totally down for. The other half, I have no fucking clue. So the first half is that Patty Jenkins, Joel, did you know that she directed this little film from A24 called Wonder Woman? So she directed that movie, and it was a modest success. I think it made like $10. That was from Joel and I's discounted movie tickets combined. So anyways, Wonder Woman was a huge success during the summer. It is currently the biggest one domestically, I believe. Worldwide, that's a different story. I think it's like Despicable Me 3. It's fucking weird. But domestically, I think Wonder Woman is the highest grossing one of the summer. Not the year, the summer. And it was kind of rumored around that Patty Jenkins would return. It is now official. She has signed on to do a sequel. Yeah, no shit. Listen, if you have someone that directs a $150 million budgeted movie and grosses over $700 million and counting right now, we haven't even gotten to the digital sales or the Blu-ray sales or the just the home video rentals. We haven't gotten into that shit. This is just theatrical run, folks. So bringing her back and giving her a pay raise, it makes total sense to me. To be honest with you, I like Patty Jenkins quite a bit, especially from the first one. But I think as a combo, they need to bring back the writer. I really enjoyed the written work that had to do with the movie. The villain, not so much in the ending battle. That could be debated on for days. But the majority of the film was really well written. So I think if they bring her back, and of course Gal Gadot's going to come back, bring back, I believe, is it Heinberg, Joel? Alan Heinberg?
Alan Heinberg for the screenplay.
Yeah, so if they bring all three of those people back, I think we're going to be in good hands. And to go on the other side, to Marvel, which is ironic I say that because someone did jump over to the other side. Apparently, the current writer right now, I say this in air quotes because I don't think this movie's going to get made, of Gotham City Sirens, which is going to be the spinoff of Suicide Squad. Holy shit. All right, bear with me here. This is her name, Geneva Robertson Warren. I'm just going to assume that D's is silent. Anyways, she has she's going to write Gotham City Sirens, and she has currently written the Tomb Raider reboot, which is almost, I think, either done filming or like getting really damn close with Alicia Vikander, and so she is tapped to kind of be a part of the Captain Marvel team. This is cool. I mean, you don't really hear much about people jumping sides like that. I think she got hired because I think Gotham City Sirens is in kind of a standstill right now. I think that's why she kind of went over to the other side, because it's in a standstill. She, probably got a great script in Tomb Raider, so someone noticed that and was like, oh shit, we need to snag her up before DC decides to, reinvigorate Gotham City Sirens. So I haven't seen any of her work, so I can't really judge her on her writing capabilities, but her going over there to Marvel, that sounds fine with me. I mean, all the Marvel movies up until this point, the scripts have been fine. That's the one thing about, the Marvel movies. I really don't typically go out of them and go, oh man, what a great fucking script. Listen, as long as you deliver it in the final product and it's cohesive, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's got some really great dramatic weight to it, and it ties into the universe well, I typically don't comment on the writing unless it just absolutely blows my mind. So, not really that big of news, but, I haven't seen really anything that she's done, so yeah. So Joel, does the Wonder Woman news, does it surprise you? And does this switch over from Gotham City Sirens to Captain Marvel, does it kind of, I don't know, does it kind of give you the impression that Gotham City Sirens is kind of on a standstill right now?
Well, about Wonder Woman 2, the only thing that surprises me is that it took this long to announce it. I feel like
yeah, it's been 3 months.
Yeah, which I just feel like there's probably been deals, on the back end that, for some reason there was hesitancy. Maybe it was on her end, maybe it was on their end, we don't know. But I'm certainly excited. I mean, obviously it does make sense. And so I'm definitely excited to see another one. With Captain Marvel, or I guess with Gotham City Sirens, to borrow a joke from a film group on Facebook that I'm a part of, like Sin City 2, it's just never going to be made. No, but I get that same feeling that you have, which is that it's probably not going to come out anytime soon. Clearly, it's in like a purgatory right now in terms of the writing. And so if they can, if Marvel can snatch this writer up, and obviously she's talented because, she's clearly kind of rising in the industry. And, how awesome is it that superhero movies have, in Hollywood, have another female writer? That's pretty awesome. Awesome news. And obviously, they have confidence. So I'm excited for the movie, and I feel like they feel like obviously that she's a hit, and yeah. So
you're very calm on this whole news. You're like, it's cool. Like, well, and that's the thing. Like, it's really hard to kind of judge someone that we have not seen any written material for.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's really, I think it's going to be the Tomb Raider thing is obviously going to come out first next year, right? So
yes.
Obviously we'll be able to judge more on her capabilities of writing a big blockbuster by that movie. Possibly. It could be that there's a lot of behind-the-scenes studio stuff that impedes the screenplay on screen, but which obviously happens sometimes. But nevertheless, if somebody can kind of keep within the wheelhouse of the studio's demands, and Marvel has heard good things about her from Warner Brothers, if she's written any of that, and from whatever studio is doing the Tomb Raider movie, then obviously there's some confidence to be had in her hands, and she'll become, I think, the second female writer for Marvel. I'm gonna have to look at that. I know Nicole Perlman co-wrote the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
But I can't remember any others. So this is pretty good news. I like that, and so I'm excited to see that movie and see her work.
Exactly, and it's like you said, Tomb Raider is probably going to be the one that we're gonna have to really judge her upon and be like, okay, like she didn't do a bad job, like she made a cohesive story, so she'll do well in Marvel. Because that's the thing with Disney is that they're like this gigantic empire. They're not going to just I mean, they might. I don't know how sadistic they are, but I don't think they're just going to hire anyone. So I mean, obviously they saw something in her. I was like, yeah, we can shell out, some money towards this person, because they're pretty stingy on their money too. So it's like, I don't think like they would just hire a nobody writer. But Joel, before we get into the controversial news topics, go ahead and just do the third kind of like news related story, and then we'll get into the kind of controversy shit.
Yeah, actually, that was about what I was gonna do. I whenever I sent the text to, we text the notes to each other. When I sent the text, I was like, you know what? I probably should have just switched those because I don't want to end on news. That's kind of more trivial than the controversy. But anyway, so I don't know if everybody or anybody knows about the tumultuous relationship and both professional and romantic between Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, who, of course, everybody knows who they are, but they were
gossip, Joel. Gossip.
I love Lucy. What?
I said gossip, Joel. We're now a gossip podcast.
It is a famous story of infidelity on both sides. It's an intense story basically, and it's exactly the kind of thing that this screenwriter that I'm about to mention, who's very topical this week, by the way, is kind of prepared for. It's a story set in the showbiz industry that circles around plays for power between husband and wife, and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were fiery, ruthless people in the TV industry, at least for that period of time. And so Lucy and Desi is a project that Aaron Sorkin is going to write. Yes, Aaron Sorkin of The Social Network, The West Wing, The Newsroom, what have you, and one of this week's trailers, is going to be taking this on with Cate Blanchett playing Lucille Ball. And I just got to say, Cate Blanchett is perfect casting for this. She looks something like her. She kind of had that appearance, and if you don't believe me, go look at her appearance as was it Katharine Hepburn? Pretty sure. I think it was Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, I believe so.
Some Hepburn in The Aviator from Martin Scorsese. She even looks like her, and so this is perfect casting. This is perfect casting. This is a perfect writer to take on this material because it is going to be incredibly intense. There was a TV movie, I think way back in like 2000 or something, where I can't remember who played her. I have to look that up. But man, I mean, it's an intense story. It's got a lot of, it's interesting because we're going to get a bit of some insight into their production company. And without Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, we would not have Star Trek. So I'm looking forward to seeing that play into at least a little bit of the movie. I can't imagine it won't. So I'm so down for this. I mean, it's a great story. I used to watch I Love Lucy obsessively. It was my mom's favorite show for a long time. So we would whenever she wasn't working a lot, we would watch it, over summers when it was on Nick at Night and TV Land and what have you. And so I was kind of immersed into the whole world. I'm pretty sure I've seen every episode, and if I haven't, then I probably could watch the rest of them in like a month. I mean, it was pretty close. I watched hundreds of episodes. And then I got kind of immersed into that world, did a lot of research just, out of personal interest into the stories, and it's a sordid tale for sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing somebody with Aaron Sorkin's clout take that on, because it's exciting. And they're talking to actors to play Desi Arnaz. I think that they're talking to Javier Bardem, which is pretty good. But the other possible choice is Bobby Cannavale, who is actually Cuban. And so I think that would work a lot better. And yeah, I'm just generally excited to see this play out.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Cate Blanchett, who's arguably one of the top 3 best working actresses in the world right now, you have one of my favorite screenwriters, Aaron Sorkin, tackling the story. I mean, you are setting yourself up for possibly one of the greatest films of the year and extreme Oscar pull on this thing. This sounds great. I mean, because back in a while back, it was reported as kind of like a loose rumor, like oh, this was going to happen. Now that like it's like official, it's like full steam ahead type of deal. Now we can like officially look forward to it and whatnot. But yeah, the biggest story out of this is actually who's going to play the counterpart, who's going to play Desi, and I think Bobby Cannavale is a great pick. If Michael Shannon was a little bit Cuban, I'd throw his ass in there too, but I would like to get a little authenticity for the actors, so I think Bobby would work out really great. The only problem I would have, though, Cate Blanchett is on a whole different level than Bobby Cannavale. I'm not saying Bobby can't get there. I'm just saying that he hasn't been in the business long enough, and I just feel like them two going back and forth might just seem, it might not gel well, if that makes any sense. It's just like she's so, like, she's one of the best, and like Bobby is like in the middle right now, where like everything I've seen him in, he's absolutely wonderful. And they were in Blue Jasmine together, and so they do have like that kind of chemistry that we've already seen on screen. It's just when you're doing an important story like this, I don't know. But then again, he could surprise us. He's probably waiting for his big break. Now, that show Vinyl did not do him any services, but as far as movies go, he's probably looking for that big break for him. If this is it, and Sorkin does have a lot of clout when it comes to casting, if he feels like he can do it, and he recites Sorkin dialogue like a fucking champ, then yeah, we're looking at our next Desi Arnaz. So, yeah, it depends on who is the counterpart. But Cate Blanchett, I don't even need to discuss her. She's just too good. And then, of course, Aaron Sorkin, we'll get to in the trailer section, also is just really good at writing dialogue that's snappy, quick, and just... some people might seem to see it as pretentious. I just see it as smart dialogue. Do some people talk like that in real life? Not necessarily, but this is a movie, after all. As long as he captures, like, the essence of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, I don't see what the problem would be with him tackling this. And, with their marriage and relationship, whether it was on the show or outside the show, they probably had a lot of back and forths. And if you want a dialogue-heavy kind of movie, I think Aaron Sorkin is perfect for that. Yeah, I Love Lucy is one of those shows that broke grounds. I mean, that show went on for a very long time, and was also, I believe, Joel, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first show to ever featured a married couple in the same bed, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so it was something like that. So, but Lucille Ball was kind of like that. She liked to push the envelope and push the edge in terms of like what she wanted to do. So the show is iconic in pop culture, and just making a movie on this, man, like that shoots up already to like at least top 5 anticipated for whatever the fuck it comes out. So yeah, I'm totally down for this shit.
I believe I'm really curious also beyond them, obviously there's going to be roles for to play William Frawley, who was Fred Mertz, and Vivian Vance, who is Ethel Mertz. I'm curious to see who plays them because those are some potentially terrific roles as well.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that they need to get John Goodman for William Frawley. That would be...
Holy shit. That's actually inspired. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, awesome. It would be great. All right. So let's get into the first bit of controversy. Chase, take it away.
Oh, dear God. I don't use this, so take everything what I'm about to say with a grain of salt before I even begin to talk about this. So MoviePass, Joel. MoviePass is a service you can pay for to where if people don't know how it works, I'm going to say it as simply as I can because I had to look it up just to make sure I knew what the process was. So you pay a monthly subscription for essentially like a debit card, if you will, or like a credit card. And so you have to go to the specific theater that you're going to that is supported by this service. You pick which movie you want. The company then loads your card up with the amount that it is required to go into that movie. You swipe your service card, and basically the company pays the theater whatever the ticket was, even though you pay that monthly flat rate. And a lot of people don't know the kind of stipulations with the service. You can only see one movie a day, I believe. That movie can only be seen once. It does not account for 3D or IMAX screenings, and I believe that's it. So the big news that came out was that they're dropping it down to $9.99 a month, essentially less than Netflix, to where you can actually go out and see a movie once and see as many movies as you want throughout the month and only pay $10. Like I said, I don't use MoviePass. I guess I'm a traditional motherfucker, and motherfucker is allowed on this episode considering what movie we're talking about. But yeah, I'm more of a traditionalist, Joel, and I like to go to movies and pay for every single one of them, especially when they're indie films, because I don't know the numbers, but I can probably tell you that Logan Lucky did not do well, and so it's stuff like that makes me want to go out and actually pay for each individual movie. I just like to know that my money is contributing towards these films. Now, I understand that MoviePass will pay for these movies, and they will pay the theaters and whatnot, but I just never been, even though I go see anywhere from 10 to 20 movies a month, and so does Joel. Joel probably sees more than I do, and so I just have never found the urge to sign up for MoviePass. But I guess for people that didn't want to take a chance on a certain movie, this is the good part about this, is that many people will sign up for this $9.99 and probably will go take a chance on a Logan Lucky or an Ingrid Goes West or a Detroit or whatever, because movie tickets nowadays are so goddamn expensive. It's hard for anyone to go out. If you want to take you and your date out, it's going to be at least $50 So that's why I always go in the morning and do matinee. And sometimes if I have to go see an afternoon movie, I just gotta just pay the cost. It's fine with me. But yeah, I just I don't see the purpose for it. I'm sure this will excite many people. But I guess, Joel, if I wanted to spin this in some positive light, it does, it does have the ability to kind of urge people to go check out smaller movies if they wanted to, which is always great to see because I want smaller movies to be supported. But it seems like nowadays people just go to the theaters for the big event movies. It's not a problem. Listen, Joel and I are in the 1%, the people that listen to this beautiful podcast, you beautiful people out there. We are the 1%. We go see 3, sometimes 5 movies a week. Most people only see 2 to 3 a year. So if this MoviePass kind of awakens people to get out of their house every once in a while and go to the theater, check out the big event movies, but also check out the smaller ones, I'm okay with it. Not for me personally. I don't care about MoviePass. I really don't. I will pay for each individual one. But those are my thoughts on that. Maybe Joel has a different spin on it. Joel, do you think this kind of low, really fucking low monthly rate will eventually kill this company?
It might. I'm not quite sure about a future for this. It's interesting. I don't personally have a use for MoviePass because I get free tickets through a perk in the theater that I work at. But I mean, that I work at, that my dad works at. I'm sorry, and so I don't really have a use for it. But it feels like this is kind of the. It's weirdly. You're right about the amount of people who just see one or two or three or four a year. That this really isn't the right method for most people. But it'll be interesting to see where the company goes from here, whether or not this does kill them, because it's entirely possible. But I mean, like I said, I don't have a use for the whole thing. I see the movie, and if I have to pay for it, it's usually at another theater, and I don't mind that, at all. I'm gonna be paying for one tomorrow, actually, before screening, so I'll be fine there. But it'll be interesting to see where how it all plays out. The controversy, of course, was in the price difference and the change in perks that the MoviePass gives you, and I feel like maybe it's the wrong direction. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. Maybe at some point I'll take advantage of it, just because I probably won't be in Texas forever, or at least my dad won't be working at that theater forever. So at some point I'll have to start paying, in which case I might choose something like this because of the structure of it. I would be able to budget better if I had something like this. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting turn of events for them, for sure.
So I have to ask you then: do you think dropping it this low will encourage people to go out and give smaller movies a chance?
I think so. I think that this actually speaks better for smaller movies than it does for big movies.
Yeah.
I think that it's certainly, Scott Mendelson of Forbes was saying that recently. He was coming out in defense of the decision, and I think that this will help smaller movies, because if people pay for this and they want something other than what they usually see, then they have to go to the smaller movies, and so this might help that out. But we obviously have to find out if that is what happens.
Yeah.
If it isn't, then this could be a downturn for them. So will be certainly interesting. What's also interesting is this week in social media.
Oh shit! Now, and before Joel begins, I just remember going on Twitter one day, and someone was retweeting the fuck out of the people that we're about to talk about, and I was like, well, what's going on? And so I go to the original thread from the original person, not complaining, but voicing their concern, and it was a great burn. It was one of the better Twitter burns I've seen all this week.
Oh yeah, and it's long too.
Yes, it is a very long thread.
It is an incredibly long thread. So here's the story. Now, I have to actually preface this by saying, and honestly, this is like, we're this little podcast from Texas, and I don't want to start like some forever online war.
Yeah, all right. Here, see, I was waiting for the day when Joel would get us into an internet war. So Joel, I'm ready. Let's dig the trenches. I got my gear ready. Let's fucking do it. We're gonna stand strong. Whatever you're about to say, I got your back 100%. Now, if you start saying some stupid shit, I'm gonna be leaving you off on the side. So choose your words wisely. But I am ready for war. What do you got?
All right. I feel like you'll agree. We've actually never talked about this channel, but I despise everything to do with CinemaSins. I despise it. I think that way early on when it first started, I got some amusement out of the fact that they were pointing out some obvious mistakes. It might have been in a movie that I happened to dislike, but since then, they've basically just taken whatever's popular and really like looked way too deeply, sometimes incorrectly, at what is quote unquote wrong with the movie. Everything wrong with Get Out, for instance. They just made one of those, and that's totally not going to be problematic. I didn't watch it, but you know. Yeah, there's this video on YouTube that does just as good a job as this director did at breaking down exactly what the problem is with CinemaSins, because it's this video. I think I might actually have Chase included in the description below. I will, don't take that as gospel, but there's this video on YouTube called Everything Wrong with Sherlock Holmes. And it points out exactly, like point by point, the problem here, which is that CinemaSins is basically anti-discourse. There is nothing here that is thoughtful. There's nothing. There's nothing thoughtful in the breakdown. There's nothing thoughtful in the premise of just finding things wrong with movies. It's cynical. Cynicism does not belong in this game. It is an awful, awful channel. So if that starts like some online war, sorry about that. But that's my point of view. So they released a video within the last few weeks targeting Kong Skull Island from earlier this year. And it really touched a nerve with the director, Jordan Vogt Roberts, who took to Twitter to rant and very smartly rant against the stupidities of this series. And I'm gonna also have Chase include the transcript of his Twitter explosion, which is insanely long. I'm actually I read the whole thing in preparation for this on slashfilm.com, and I'm telling you, it's an entire page, an entire web page of this stuff. He goes off on it, and it's so awesome. It is an awesome read. It's basically I'm gonna read select selections from this. But basically, here's how it starts. CinemaSins may have been an innocuous joke when the videos were a few minutes long, but at 18 minutes long, it's not so innocuous anymore. For a video like that to be 18 minutes long, it takes a rare combination of self-importance and a lack of ability to edit yourself. And he's right, because at first, these videos were maybe... Wasn't it like everything wrong with such and such in under 2 minutes, right? Or something like that way early on.
It was like no more than 5, ever.
Yeah. And now they're entire episodes of television, basically. Or, like a sitcom. And he basically goes on to point out that they spend 18 minutes talking about nothing. They're making jokes. They are referring incorrectly to events in the movie. Like in this one, for instance, there's this point where we see it's a scene near the beginning of the movie that takes place in the rain, and the commentator on the video says it looks like this movie spent half its budget on rain machines and made sure key scenes took place with them involved so we couldn't hear the dialogue. And he basically says, literally not another scene in the film has rain in it after this. Literally 2 scenes in the whole film. The writing lacks any integrity. And then there's another thing where there's like a shot of an explosion that's seen in a reflection in a guy's sunglasses, and they misidentify the person in the frame as the Shea Wiggum character, and then talk about him critically as a character, and it's not even the character. And so he basically points out, are you paying attention? That's not Shea Wiggins' character. Try actually watching the movie. It's just basically calling out everything to do with this movie, which is brilliant to me because it sort of exposes the uselessness of this page, this series, and I feel like honest trailers are pretty funny. The ones from Screen Junkies, those are pretty funny. I think that the funniest though are the How It Should Have Ended videos, which are the ones that are animated and then just kind of poke fun at little tiny, or no, not little tiny ones, but if there was some different avenue that they could have gone down, even if it's not even remotely believable, they just kind of run with it, like How Harry Potter should have ended. Snape shoots Voldemort in the head with a gun, stuff like that, where it's just kind of silly, but CinemaSins takes it way too seriously, and they're way too cynical and snarky, and it's just completely useless. They are a scourge right now on YouTube, and I think that this was a brilliant exchange from Jordan Vogt Roberts to point out the hypocrisies, the uselessness, the kind of misinformation or disinformation or whatever you want to call it of the videos, pointing out things about the movie that are often not correct. And again, I think I'm going to have Chase include this other video. I'm going to send it to him afterward, and then he can put it in the description of another channel. I'm gonna search it right now because I didn't do my job. Everything wrong with, okay. So everything wrong with Sherlock Holmes is from Bob Vids on YouTube, and he basically goes through and points out the factual information that the CinemaSins channel got wrong. And it's just brilliant. And it's just like this thread that Jordan Vogt Roberts released, because again, it's pointing out the commonly incorrect things with this channel that are then taken by a lot of people to be genuine problems with the movie. Believe it or not, there was a period of time where it seemed like everything everyone pointed out about Prometheus, The Dark Knight Rises, and Star Trek Into Darkness came from this channel. It seemed like it. I don't know if it really was that, or maybe it was the scene of disliking certain quote-unquote plot holes in those movies were the ones that kind of informed the CinemaSins videos, but I'm pretty sure it was the other way around. I feel like there was a period of time where there was a lot of backlash, and all the points being made by people who disliked those movies came from the CinemaSins video. That's the kind of influence they have right now, and it needs to stop because they are becoming ridiculous, and they became ridiculous a long time ago. So it's just annoying to see CinemaSins still functioning to me, and I'm actually curious to hear Chase's opinion because I don't think we've ever talked about them. So I don't even know if he thinks that they're good or what. So Chase, take it away.
All right. So back in the day, when I was in college, maybe late teenager or whatever, I'd watch them occasionally, and it was like entertainment fluff. It's just like that's something, the thing that you watch to just let time pass, and you just kind of go about your day afterwards. Joel's right. Now they're getting to a point where they're making 20 plus long episodes of nitpicky things, and I will play devil's advocate for 5 seconds, and I'll go back to slamming them. I believe that their primary channel is to entertain. That's it. However, there's my devil's advocate. It's out of the way. Now, on the flip side to that, they have a lot of followers. They have a lot of power on the internet. So when they take this thing that they might consider just be entertainment and they're not really taking it seriously or whatever, a lot of people do, and it influences a lot of people in how they view movies. And now we're getting to a point where we're getting nitpicky as a society. I'm guilty of it. Joel is guilty of it. But CinemaSins takes it to a whole nother level to where everything about it just slams the movie into obscurity to where people don't even want to give it a shot because of what they say. That's how much power and influence that they have. So, yeah, they need to stop this shit. Now, I'm not gonna back up Kong Skull Island either because I thought that was just a very average movie. But I think the director has very good points in terms of just the absurdity that they're getting to nowadays. But they have to realize that. Listen, that might be their whole business model, is that they're there to entertain people and take, kind of like this satire route on criticism. If that's what they're going for, that is fine. But like Joel said, this isn't like something new. They've been doing this for a while, to where back in the day when it was like, 5 minutes or less, that was funny. It was like, okay, they're nitpicking. They sound like, it's like a satire on like Eber and Roper. Like, I get it. That's funny. That's cute. But as it is kind of progressed and kind of grown into this like empire on the internet of film criticism, because I really hope they don't consider themselves as film critics at all. Like, that would be catastrophic. But it's getting to a point now where it's getting so absurd. People are taking it, too literal and seriously, and it's just making them look bad, and it's making other people that like them look bad, and it's just bad, dude. Like, stop that shit. Yeah, so I'm not advocating for Kong Skull Island whatsoever, but the director made some very good points in that humongous Twitter thread that he put on his feed. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. They gotta stop, Joel. If they want to go back to what they originally did, that's fine. Also, I think this is not a conspiracy theory, but I think they're making longer videos for more ad revenue. And it's just a business tactic. So they need to kind of take a step back, kind of reformat their whole thing, and move forward as a satire, if you will, and not just so much as nitpicky film criticism now. Because like I said, I hope to God they do not consider themselves as real critics, but if they do, they gotta change their tune, because that shit ain't working, yo. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I totally agree. It was amusing a few times, and then it got old, and anyway, it's just there we go. All right, so that's it for the news, guys. What's your favorite bit of news? My favorite bit of news is obviously the Lucille Ball thing. I'm super excited for that.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I don't even need to say anything.
It's amazing that it's not the Star Wars thing, but just that news of the Jabba the Hutt deal, and the general news that they're going to, known characters for spinoffs is just a little underwhelming. But yeah, so obviously the Lucy and Desi project is awesome. We are going to move on to the trailers now, and Chase, I'm going to give you this first one.
Oh, hell yes. All right, so CinemaSins might be in the shitter right now, but you know who's not in the shitter, Joel, except for a few floating turds occasionally, is A24. This first one is The Florida Project, and is directed by Sean Baker, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, he directed the Tangerine film, which was famous for being shot on an iPhone, and that premiered at Sundance. I still haven't watched it yet. It's in my Netflix queue. Sue me. But this one, The Florida Project, I will definitely check out. The best way I can describe it, it focuses on a group of kids at a hotel somewhere, and they kind of just interact with either guests or interact with themselves and interact with the hotel manager, played by Willem Dafoe, and it just looks like a really charming, maybe a little darker kind of path on childhood and just innocence and just growing up and just kind of like learning just about life and just kind of weaving in and out of life and just kind of learning from your mistakes and just growing up as a child and growing up in that environment. It looks absolutely wonderful. I don't know if this was shot on an iPhone, but I can tell you it's absolutely gorgeous. From what I've noticed from the Tangerine trailer and noticed from this trailer is that Baker likes to use a lot of really not saturated colors, but really like just a lot of like vibrant colors in all of his scenes, and it just draws you in immediately to what's going on. And then when you have like the absorbing characters and story, then you really get into the movie, not only on a visual telling standpoint, but also an emotional standpoint as well. This looks wonderful. I have nothing more to say. I cannot fucking wait for this. Joel, we are seeing this together. Like, A24, man, like, stop. You're going to give me a heart attack because of all the good shit you pump out. So this one absolutely looks wonderful. Wasn't even on my radar. I didn't even know A24 had this coming out. I knew about the one that we're about to talk about, but I didn't even know about this one. Now it's on my radar, and I haven't really seen a good Willem Dafoe movie in a long time. Like, when I was watching this, I was like, holy shit, please don't tell me the last thing I watched him in was his Lars von Trier trilogy. Like, is Antichrist, no thank you. Melancholia, I absolutely love, and then Nymphomaniac I actually really like as well. But he hasn't really done much outside of that. Maybe he has. Maybe just I haven't been paying attention. But I haven't really seen a good Willem Dafoe movie in quite some time. But he kind of brought that really kind of warm feeling to his character. Like, it looks like he's going to interact with the kids very well. He's going to kind of be like their mentor. That's not even he's not even blood related. You know, it just has like a nice wholesome vibe. And I like the fact that it's going to kind of be on a more realistic take, and not some, Hollywood, like, overblown, like, these are what kids are like. It's like, no, I think Baker's going to really kind of show you, like, the harsh truths of childhood, but also the good moments as well. So, absolutely fucking love it. Joel, why do you hate this trailer?
It's terrible. No, this looks, it looks great. And you're right. I mean, Willem Dafoe has, he's kind of, This seems like an unlikely performance from him. It seems like a genuinely nice character, and he just has the face of, playing not very nice characters. He's played villains, and in fact, actually, okay, I'm going to talk about this first, but I completely forgot about a news story. I completely forgot about a news story that we have to talk about, and I'm going to tell you why this made me think of it. So he has not been nominated for an Oscar in a while. And I feel like this might be one of those that possibly gets some, not nominations, but gets some attention, and then is, campaign for Oscars. And I feel like he'd be in that discussion from this, from what we see here, especially in the quotes from the critics who are saying that it's a moving performance from him. And he has not been nominated, I believe, since 2000, when he played Max Schreck. As a vampire in the making of Nosferatu, and I completely forgot a news story that broke this week. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and you were so excited to talk about it.
And, I was.
But here's the deal: like, when it's your week and you give me the notes, I'm not going to say anything. It's like, okay, those are the ones you went with. Let's go for it.
Right. I it's funny. So yesterday I sort of scrolled through Collider.com to get my news, and this was nowhere to be found. So I remembered it, like I saw it break, and I was super excited, and then I was I had that long work week, several days in a row, and just a ton of stuff happening. And when I was working yesterday to do the notes, I didn't see it anywhere. So it's super weird that this kind of seemed to disappear, but nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and pause our trailer segment to talk about it because it is a super big, exciting piece of news. All right, so
I want people to understand that Joel is making this news up because he doesn't want to talk about the Florida project because he absolutely hates it.
No.
He's stalling, folks.
I will just say I agree with everything you just said about the Florida project. It looks great. It looks like a great movie about childhood. It clearly makes that known. The kid in the movie, Brooklyn Prince, who's playing this main role, it looks absolutely adorable and a really good young actress. And it looks really compelling. You should see Tangerine ASAP. That movie is in my top 5 of 2015. It was an amazing buddy comedy, transgender buddy comedy is how Eric Cohn of IndieWire put it. And I mean, it's just so good, and this looks like a worthy follow-up. So I'm super excited. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the trailer segment to apologize and talk about a big piece of news that broke this week. So, all right, 1922 was a pretty big year for silent film. There were several that came out, but one of the most important was Nosferatu Symphony of Horror, which was from director F.W. Murnau, and it was a loose adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. It starred Max Schreck as Count Orlok, who is a vampire who takes an interest in a real estate developer's wife, and it's a great piece of atmospheric horror from the midst of the silent era. And one of I went through a silent movie phase back in I think 2007 or 8, and that's when I saw it, and it's stuck with me since. I think I've seen it a couple of times since then, and this will give me a chance to watch it yet again. It's a great piece of work, and they are remaking it, and it's going to be the director of The Witch, Robert Eggers, and Anya Taylor-Joy from The Witch is going to be in it, probably as Ellen Hutter, who is the wife in question. I can't imagine who else she's playing. I am so excited for this. You have no idea. I think that there is no director who is more perfect for this job. I can't imagine anybody else taking it. I mean, he was able to take it with The Witch. I quite like The Witch. Maybe a little less than most people. I felt like when it became a chamber drama in the second half, a little less interesting, but the build-up to that point was great, and I think that he has a real handle on atmosphere, and this is just perfect material for him. So here's the thing. I want them to cast Willem Dafoe as Count Orlok. I think that would be perfect. I haven't seen all of Shadow of the Vampire, but I've seen segments with Willem Dafoe's performance as Max Schreck. The premise of that movie was that during the making of Nosferatu, the director and Max Schreck have agreed to hide the fact that Schreck is a vampire, is an actual vampire playing this role. And it actually comes out of a place of truth in that there was, for a time, during the period right after it was made, a legend that developed that Max Schreck was indeed a vampire because he was so secretive about his personal life. This was a person who was not at all in the public eye. He was an incredibly reclusive actor. He did some work other than this, but he was so secretive and so believable in the role as a vampire that people started genuinely believing that he was one. And so the movie Shadow of the Vampire was made as sort of a metafictional kind of thing where, yes, in fact, Max Schreck was a vampire, and he was, eating people in the production of the movie and all of that. And so I think that what they need to do is they need to go full meta with it and have Willem Dafoe play Count Orlok. I think it would be a brilliant move. But really, whoever they get, they have to get somebody, either that or, he's about to play a clown demon prince. They should get Bill Skarsgård, possibly. That would be really interesting too. But either of those two, I think, are kind of perfect. And this news excites me greatly. It's one of my favorite films from the early days of filmmaking, and so I'm super excited.
Yeah, I think it just every little piece of this puzzle works out really well. Robert Eggers is a perfect choice for it because back in the day, I know this is really hard to believe, but movies did not rely on jump scares, and they relied on atmosphere and kind of that slow burn mentality that horror films played out in the silent film era. So when you look at The Witch, that's exactly what Robert Eggers did. It was a slow burn horror atmosphere that didn't rely on. It had a couple of jump scares. Not everyone's perfect, but it's not. It didn't rely on that, and relied on just creepy cinematography, and just kind of like really drawing out sequences to really kind of permeate into your skin and make you realize why you were watching this, and you will probably need an exorcism afterwards. So perfect choice from the director. Anya Taylor-Joy, this has nothing to do with the way she looks, but she looks like a silent film actress. Like, she looks like someone that was acting back in the early days of film. I realize that sounded terrible. She's a beautiful woman, but
she's got an incredibly expressive face, and I think
like that's a compliment. Like, she looks like a vintage actress. Like, she's been acting for decades. That's not a bad thing, and she's good in the stuff I've seen her. And so, and Willem Dafoe is listen, this poor guy. He's already the fucking villain in Death Note. And that thing looks like a horror sighting that would, like, burst out of your closet and eat you in the middle of the night. This poor guy in his face. Like, people just will cast Willem Dafoe in, like, these, like, villainous, monstrous roles because of the way he looks. Willem, we both love you. And I'm glad you're doing stuff like the Florida Project so you can show people that you're not just, like, a monster face. But I will back up Joel. I think that's a pretty good pick. So if you want to do that, especially just, with Death Note coming around the corner, yeah. So, I just feel bad because he has that face, Joel, and people automatically go to him for, like, creepy monster roles. So,
well, I'll just say two more things. One, I feel like it's funny because I Weird Al Yankovic even mentioned his face in a song that was about the first Spider-Man movie that he was in. That was a parody of a Billy Joel, and the lyric was, oh man, I just lost it. Hold on. Ode to a Superhero. I'm looking up the lyrics. Sorry, guys. Also, I want this movie to be silent. Would that not be awesome? I mean,
the artist did win Best Picture, and that was literally 6 years ago.
Right. I mean, I think that it would work as a silent film, just like a straight remake. Make it even if it's as short as the original, which was barely more than an hour. Make it silent. It's going to be the second remake of the movie. Werner Herzog did one in the late 1970s that I have not seen, called Nosferatu the Vampire, with his usual collaborator Klaus Kinski. I got to see that because I've heard it's pretty great. But yeah, so I got the lyric here, and even Weird Al. Now Norman's a billionaire scientist who never had time for his son, but then something went screwy, and before you knew, he was trying to kill everyone. And he's riding around on that glider thing, and he's throwing that weird pumpkin bomb. Yes, he's wearing that dumb Power Rangers mask, but he's scarier without it on. And I mean, it's just, we love you, Willie. If people call you that, and I just think that he would be perfect for this because, I mean, as Max Schreck, as Forever Count Orlok, kind of, you got to see the scenes. I watched some on YouTube when this was announced because I hadn't really seen anything from him. I think, back when I watched the Oscars and he was nominated, I saw the little part that was shown when they showed part of his performance, but I hadn't seen it in long stretches, and it is uncanny how much he immerses himself into one of the creepiest roles you can possibly imagine. And so I think that this would be perfect because, as Ebert pointed out, Roger Ebert, in his review of Shadow the Vampire, there are parts of the movie that then are recreations of scenes from the original film, and you can't tell the difference. I mean, it's Max Schreck, it's not Willem Dafoe, and it's just amazing. So I've been fascinated by this movie for years now, and by its star, and I think that this is kind of just a perfectly great remake to be announced. But all right, so that's actually the end of our of our news segment, and in fact, that's my favorite news segment, news item this week. So I apologize to everybody for throwing you for a loop and pausing the trailer segment to talk about that. But we all make mistakes. This is how a live show works sometimes, and so now we're gonna move on to more trailers. We got 4 others to talk about, and A24 yet again. They blessed us. They saw the garbage fire week we were having in the world, and they were like, hey, we should cheer them up. The movie gods spoke to the executives at A24 and said, hey, release 2 trailers for movies on consecutive days, and the other one is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Now, talk about a perfect trailer. Oh my gosh, everything about this trailer was amazing. Everything. This trailer completely stunned me, and I didn't know what to expect. It's from the director of The Lobster last year, a movie I liked and I thought was a pretty clever comedy, had some good performances. I felt like it was a bit belabored in the second half, but sort of like The Witch in that way. But it was quite good, and I was looking forward. And I loved Dogtooth from several years ago. That's a weird one. So I'm certainly looking forward to anything from Lanthimos, after that. And this one is touted as a revenge tale. I can't tell you what it's about because the trailer is pretty well edited and doesn't give away much. There isn't a lot that this gives away, but it does capture a tone really well, especially through the use of a song, "Burn" by Ellie Goulding, that I don't really like, but I liked it in this trailer because of just kind of the context that a character's singing it, and it's a cappella, and this trailer it's obviously going to be a dark comedy because that's what Lanthimos does, but there's obviously going to be a tragic element too, I feel, and a thriller element almost, and so I'm just so excited. It's got Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman, and I recognized a couple of kids that we see. I think one of them might be from 13 Reasons Why. I think so. And then the other one, I can't place her, but I've seen her in other things. And I'm very excited for this. This is a perfect trailer. A perfect trailer to capture mood, to not reveal much about the story, but give you some, like little nuggets that you might be interested in the story, and a showcase for the actors. I mean, it's just a perfect trailer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a teaser. Like it captures what the film is going to be like. It captures the performances. It captures just the overall tone, what the story could possibly be, but also kind of shying away from probably some of the bigger reveals. Yeah, it was perfect. It was a perfect just setup to potentially a great movie. I remember when I went to Fantastic Fest in 2015, and The Lobster was the first one I saw there, and Yorgos was there, and just hearing that man talk about just how his mind works, because people were asking, dude, okay, listen. A little sidetrack here. Listen, if you're going to be interviewing people, don't ask the same fucking questions over and over again because they're going to get tired. But I knew someone was going to say it because we were like all in a little group huddled on the red carpet or whatever, and someone was like, how'd you come up with the idea of, Colin Farrell becoming a lobster if he doesn't find anyone to fuck? It's like, God, he's probably heard that question a million times. Like, rephrase it, you asshole. Anyways, someone asked him that, and just hearing his mind work on how he came up with that idea and whatnot, he's a fascinating dude to kind of just hear. And so when I heard his next project was coming up with Colin Farrell as well, it's like, I'm there. You don't have to sell me. Like, I liked The Lobster quite a bit. Didn't make it in my top 10, but it was a really good kind of dark comedy, very tragic romance towards the end, for sure. So yeah, I look forward to anything he does. The trailer was capturing that perfectly, and Joel, I don't know if I can contain myself, because it's like when you have this one coming up and the Florida Project plus everything else we're coming up with, like this could be a really great Oscar season, and I'm looking forward to it. And it's just these trailers, just get me excited for it. And speaking of great Oscar baity trailers, we got to talk about the next one, because Joel, I've been saying this for years, and I'll say it again. Adam Sandler is actually good. He's a good actor when he wants to be. And this next one, the Meyerowitz stories, proves just that, and also has Ben Stiller in there, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Is this like a goofy slapstick comedy? No, it's not. So here's what the IMDb kind of plot synopsis is. An estranged family gathers together in New York for an event celebrating the artistic work of their father. And this is from writer-director Noah Baumbach, who also did Greenberg with Ben Stiller as well. So he's worked with Ben Stiller before. Has he worked with Adam before?
Not off the top of my head. Yeah, he's worked with Ben Stiller a couple of times. He did Greenberg. Times, yeah. I didn't see that one. He did While We're Young, which was one of his 2 movies in 2015. I've only seen everything since Frances Ha.
Yeah, Frances Ha was delightful. While We're Young was fine. He's a very
Mistress America was good.
Yeah, he's a very interesting filmmaker. Like the cool thing with him is you don't know what the hell he's going to do next. Like he's unpredictable, which is what I like. And so, speaking of unpredictability, this one is definitely that. He's really good at capturing dysfunctional families. And just the fact that this is another dysfunctional family story with Dustin Hoffman playing their father of all actors, it's perfect. The trailer, it looks charming. It looks like it's going to have some really great comedic moments, but it looks like it's going to really kind of tap into relationships between fathers and sons and just overall family bonds in general. I absolutely love the trailer, and I can't wait for it. Ben Stiller looks great. Adam Sandler looks great. And I've said this since Punch Drunk Love. The guy has it in him. He just chooses not to. And when stuff comes out like this and you hear that his performance is just out of this world, it makes me super stoked. What was the festival that this recently just played at and he was like the talk of the town? Do you remember which one that was? Was it
Cannes?
Was it Cannes?
I think it might have been.
Okay, well, I remember just hearing about it. Like, people were watching this movie and saying, like, this is Adam Sandler's best work in years, which is not really a high bar to do, considering his last one was Punch Drunk Love. But, yeah, no, this looks absolutely wonderful. Because the one thing about, like, Noah Baumbach's movies that I've really enjoyed is he has interesting characters. And he has compelling characters. Whether I don't think the movie as a whole is, like, enjoyable or whatnot. Like, Frances Ha. I still remember, I'm blanking, Joel. Name?
What? Oh, Greta Gerwig?
Yeah, Greta Gerwig, sorry. I enjoyed her performance. Greenberg, I enjoyed Ben Stiller's character. While We're Young, didn't really care for the movie, but I actually liked Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts as a couple, and then Amanda Seyfried and Adam Driver as a couple. Like, so he has compelling characters, even though sometimes his films don't actually hit well with me, but I've always liked everything he at least attempts, and this one definitely is going to be up there for me, because I don't know if Joel knows this, but I'm a huge sucker for dysfunctional family movies. Like I don't know, it's always usually the same shit, but it's just so good when it's done right, because the thing that I really appreciate about dysfunctional family movies, or even shows like Shameless, is that if you have awful people and you can make it to where the audience actually sympathizes with them and connects with them, even though they're flawed as fuck, that is impressive as all hell. And when you can do that correctly, it just makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, absolutely liked the Meyerowitz stories, which it also has in parentheses new and selected. It also had that in the trailer. I don't know what the fuck that means, but whatever. Title aside, the trailer was wonderful. So Joel, is this officially the slowing comeback of Adam Sandler so he doesn't have to do more Pixels?
He'll probably still do them. Even if he
my God! Well, I'm done.
But
I'm just done.
But no, I mean he looks. We obviously don't really see much of him in this, but it's not a very long trailer. It's like a minute and 10 seconds.
But it was the perfect amount to kind of describe what the story was and kind of get a sense of how the family functions.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely that. And I'd actually argue that his last one was Spanglish in 2004. I thought that he was terrific in that, but that was after Punch Drunk Love. But obviously that one is his best performance. Punch Drunk Love is great in general, and he's great in it. And this certainly seems to be. I feel like this is probably more in line with Spanglish, because I feel like Noah Baumbach works in the same arena as James L. Brooks, who was the one who directed Spanglish. And he's, for those not in the know, he was the one who did like Terms of Endearment and Broadcast News back in the 80s. So I think that Baumbach is sort of a James L. Brooks of today. And so yeah, I think that this is a really good trailer. It showcases all of them pretty well. Emma Thompson's also in it. So I'm excited for sure. It's neat that Netflix got a hold of this.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. I was just like,
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Netflix is the one that dropped this trailer.
And it's less than 2 months out. It's coming. Yeah. It's October 13th. So that is certainly one I'm going to review that weekend. Whether it's on this show or on my website or both or whatever, I'm definitely going to review that, and I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. Our next trailer is the topical one from the Aaron Sorkin topic earlier this in this episode, and that is Molly's Game. Oh man, this looks good. This one is based on the life of, well, allegedly. We don't know how much we can trust in an autobiography from this person, I don't think, but based on the life of Molly Bloom, who was a sort of it feels like she was a scam artist a bit in some ways. She ran a lot of poker games in underground casinos and such with celebrities galore. And this one is Aaron Sorkin's take on that, starring Jessica Chastain as Bloom. This one's got a great cast. You got Idris Elba, who's about to have a really good fall period with this and The Mountain Between Us coming out. And is he in anything else? I can't remember. I feel
we will not discuss what he was just recently in, but as far as his future endeavors, I believe those are the only two. But I'm hoping they're so good we can forget ultimately about that turd nugget a few weeks ago.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, these are certainly the bigger players in his career right now than the Dark Tower.
Joel, I told you not to fucking call it by name. If you call it by name, it'll wake up and it will terrorize just the townsfolk. Just stop it. Just put it to bed, and I don't want to hear about the Dark Tower ever again.
The Dark Tower is suddenly Lord Voldemort.
Fuck!
Not only did I name it, I named Voldemort. Okay, no, but yeah, this one looks terrific. It looks like, your usual Sorkin kind of character-based thriller kind of tone. That's what he works in. It's such fast dialogue. Usually it becomes a thriller because of that. And yeah, I mean, it also has Kevin Costner. I can't wait to see. I don't think that Kevin Costner has ever been anything written by Sorkin. I'd have to think about that. Pretty sure he hasn't. And he's one of our best when he's great. So I'm looking forward to that. And then it looks like, to me, that Michael Cera is in it as himself, although I'm waiting to see if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, this looks terrific. I mean, it just looks intense. It looks intriguing. It looks visually stunning. It's Sorkin's directorial debut as well. And I mean, if this takes off, the Lucy and Desi project, perhaps he can direct it as well. I mean, maybe that's in the cards. I don't know what he has planned after this, but yeah, I mean, it's a great trailer, and this is a good week for trailers. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. So I mean, you're more curious to see how Kevin Costner would say Aaron Sorkin dialogue. I'm more curious as to Michael Cera saying Aaron Sorkin dialogue. Are you kidding me? Like, this guy is having, like, the greatest comeback ever. Not only is he really good at voice acting, with regardless of what you think of the movie, he was great in Sausage Party. He's great in the Lego Batman movie. He's kooky and weird on fucking Twin Peaks right now. And then, of course, now he's in this. It's like, I don't know. Like, I think he fired his agent and he got a new one because now his agent is just like, sign him on to like the best things possible. Anyways, that's the first thing. The second thing, this is my declaration of love and my marriage proposal to Jessica Chastain. So if you're listening to this, please just marry me right now. And hey, fuck it, I love everyone. So I will give my marriage proposal out to Idris Elba too. Because Jesus Christ, like, we're gonna cast good-looking people in this. Like, come on, man. Anyways, no, the trailer was great. I liked. Just the way it was kind of structured. I felt like it was a very pristine trailer. Nothing felt like it was wasted. Jessica Chastain looks fucking fierce. She looks like she's going to screw a lot of people over, and I absolutely love that. I think it's really powerful, like, when women can use not only their tactics in terms of their smarts, but also like their sexuality to like lure people in. It makes for the best fucking people, and the fact that this is based on a true story is so awesome. So not only that, Idris Elba looks great. Him kind of going back and forth with Jessica Chastain in the trailer, which happened several times, by the way. That looks very on point. It looks like Aaron Sorkin has taken a couple of cues from visual looks in terms of what he was working with Fincher and whatnot. Because it kind of has like that Social Network kind of vibe almost, which is totally fine with me. Cast aside, Aaron Sorkin's script aside, and Michael Cera's involvement aside, which is outstanding, it's the directing of Aaron Sorkin. This is his debut. This is what we're going to be focusing on. Like, Joel and I were already going to see this with Aaron Sorkin being attached as a scriptwriter. But the fact that he's going to be directing this, and this is his first ever directorial debut, I want to know, after all these years of working with these pristine filmmakers, what his directing style is going to be. This guy has been exposed to many types of filmmakers. I have a feeling he's going to go the more Fincher route. And I even heard like rumors on set that like they didn't really, like, they were cordial, but they weren't like the best of buds. But I have a feeling that he was influenced by him quite a bit, and you can definitely see that translation over to this trailer. But if he knocks it out of the park, Joel is absolutely 100% correctamundo. If this thing is as spectacular as it looks, he's going to be directing that I Love Lucy biopic, and he could possibly get nominated for Best Director on his second film ever. Like, I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, and it could be possibly one of the most magical things, just as magical as when The Disaster Artist hits and James Franco brings fucking Tommy Wiseau to the Oscars as his guest. I'm not saying that's true, but it's probably going to happen. So get ready for it. Anyways, going back to this, looks absolutely wonderful. Jessica Chastain. The one thing I've always liked about her is that I've never really seen her in a prominent like leading role. And yes, I realized she was in Miss Sloane last year. Didn't see it. Sorry. It's not because I didn't want to. Guys, there's just a lot of stuff to see, and sometimes some of them just slip through the cracks. I heard she was good in it. So I want to see her take a leading role. I want her to see her do something different. She's going to kind of go the more, kind of like what Joel said, like a scam artist route, which is something we've seen before, but we can still kind of get behind these characters, like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio screwing all those fucking people over in Wolf of Wall Street, but you're still fascinated in his story. That's what I want to see in this one. Looks off the charts, and once again, marriage proposal, Jessica Chastain. This is my declaration to you. So that is my thoughts on that trailer, and I don't know if Joel knows this, but when he sends the notes, and when I send the notes to him, we have each other's names by each trailer and story, and so looking at the trailers, I was like, all right, I got that one, that one, that one. I've seen all of them. I can talk about them. So Joel sends me the list, and the last trailer we're going to be talking about is Rememory. And this one stars Peter Dinklage and Anton Yelchin as one of his last final roles. And I don't know if Joel did this on purpose, but I've already seen this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
yeah,
exactly. So I was like, oh, he put me next to Memory. Does he know I already watched this? Now, this is something I can talk about because I saw it at the Dallas International Film Festival. And so that was one of the ones I saw. It was one of the last ones I saw. But I can tell you, watching the trailer and having seen the movie, it's a good representation. It wasn't my favorite movie at the festival. It was fine. Peter Dinklage was really great in it, and it's nice to see him actually take a leading role and not do side garbage like Pixels. Speaking of that movie once again, I want to see him kind of go beyond Game of Thrones and really establish himself as a capable actor in things that are not Game of Thrones. And so I liked his performance in the movie, for sure. The story was... The premise is amazing, by the way. Let me just read it to you. The widow of a wise professor stumbles upon one of his inventions that is able to record and play a person's memory. That's fucking awesome. And so when I basically went into the movie reading that and was like, I'm totally down for that. Let's go. I thought the story was kind of lacking a little bit. It felt a little all over the place. Some stuff was a little bit rushed. When you have such an interesting sci-fi premise like that, it just seemed like it was very bare bones, very minimalistic, and didn't really get into the technology as much as I wanted it to. It was more of like a crime thriller than anything, which is not a bad thing. That's what it was there for, but I wish there was just a little bit more to it. But Dinklage was absolutely amazing in it, and this trailer represents the movie well. I will say temper your expectations just a hair, but I would still recommend it just because, one, Anton Yelchin for sure, but two, Peter Dinklage. I want people to see more of him besides his hit show. So, yeah, that's my assessment on the trailer.
Yeah, I mean it's a good trailer. I was sort of scrounging around a bit because we had the 4 kind of big ones that dropped that we already talked about. And then there were just a bunch of smaller things, most of them television. And so I kind of wanted to pick one. And it's funny because you mentioned that you saw this, and I completely forgot that fact. So that's pretty funny. I'm going to definitely be watching this. It plays for free on Google Play starting this coming Thursday. So I'm going to review it probably this week or next week. Well, actually, I'm taking a break over the 1st. So I'll probably review it this week. And I was certainly intrigued. For me, I don't watch things with super big expectations usually, unless it's something like Star Wars. So I'm certainly I always temper my expectations a bit, but I'm certainly intrigued. As for Anton Yelchin, it's always super weird to me, at least, to see somebody in a role more than a year after they died. It was that way with Bernie Mac when he was in that awful movie Old Dogs, like a year and a half after he died. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman in the last Hunger Games, Robin Williams was in a movie this year and he died 3 years ago. It's just always weird to see. I mean, I know that there are projects that kind of sit on the shelf sometimes or are just, happen to be in post-production or whatever when one of the stars dies. So it's going to be tough to see him. It was a sad loss, and but I'm looking forward to that performance at least. And love Peter Dinklage. I mean, I've seen him in several things, and he's a lot of fun. I haven't watched Game of Thrones. That seems to be the main thing that I would watch. But interestingly enough, I don't know if you ever saw it, but the movie that this director made in 2008 was also had Peter Dinklage. I don't even know if you've heard of it, but Penelope?
Yeah, that's the one with Christina Ricci and her pig nose?
Yeah. Okay.
I remember the fucking poster of that, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to skip this.
It was great. It was great. And I have a copy at home. I might lend you that. It's actually a lot better than the stupid, horrible marketing of it way back in the day. seem to sell it. It's a lot more serious. It's actually a drama primarily, and they sold it as this silly comedy. Anyway, he was in that as a. It was sort of a minor role, but he was pretty fun as a paparazzi, a photographer person. And anyway, so that was a fun movie. It was just interesting to see him like turn around and not direct anything until this movie, anything feature length at least, until this movie, which was this dark, or dark-ish kind of sci-fi thriller. It was just funny to know that Mark Polanski was behind both. But yeah, so those are our trailers. What's your favorite one? It's actually kind of hard for me to pick, but I'm going to say The Killing of a Sacred Deer is my favorite trailer. So I gotta say that one.
I gotta go with the other A24 Florida project because it completely just surprised me. I was like, because I heard nothing about it, because I knew about the Killing of a Sacred Deer. I had no idea this was coming out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like that, it's honestly like almost inevitable that the Florida Project is probably going to be one of my favorite movies of the year, just because of Sean Baker's involvement. I feel like it's an inevitability. I can't talk. Because Tangerine was amazing. He was able to have such compassion for his characters, and this is going to be a movie that needs that. And so I think that there's no better hand to direct a movie like that than Sean Baker. And so it was certainly close, but I just feel like for trailer construction, for the excitement that I felt after it, I got to go with The Killing of a Sacred Deer. But tell us what your favorite is, and if you liked all of them and you can't choose, then tell us that as well, because that would totally be understandable. And yeah, so that's our trailers for the week. We are going to move on to our reviews of The Hitman's Bodyguard and Logan Lucky. Those are the two big ones this week, as Chase likely mentioned in the intro. So let's get on with this. All right. So I think that we should just go ahead and get The Hitman's Bodyguard out of the way.
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. So this one comes from director Patrick Hughes, whose only real previous big thing was The Expendables 3 of all movies. But this one stars Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson as respectively a hitman. I'm sorry. I just totally bungled that. Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds as respectively a hitman and his bodyguard. See what I did there horribly? All right, so this one is about the Reynolds character is a security professional who is hired to protect Jackson's character, who is a mercenary with more than 200 kills to his name, and he's hired to protect him because the Jackson character is going to be a witness in a trial, of a dictator, or the president, I should say, of Belarus, played by Gary Oldman. And so he's got to get him to The Hague in wherever that is. And this was generic and just kind of bland. So Chase, take it away.
Yeah, thank you for your assessment, sir.
Right.
Anyways, what was the country that you said Gary Oldman was the president of?
Belarus.
Yeah, let's call it what it is. It was fucking Russia. All right, so Hollywood, I know your games, fam. I know your games. I'm a liberal just like you. I know what you're doing. Anyways, The Hitman's Bodyguard. So I wasn't expecting much from this. Like when Joel said that this was going to be one of the ones that we're going to review, I was like, that's fine. As long as you're like dumb, entertaining, fun, I might even like get you up to that B status, fam, like I do with the Fast movies. But I couldn't do that. The problem with this movie, and this is a major, major issue, and I'm about to spin this and say something that Joel's probably going to disagree with, but I actually think would have benefited from. The main issue with this film is tone clashing. This film doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it supposed to be a comedy? Is it supposed to be a dark comedy? Is it supposed to be a drama? Is it supposed to be an action thriller? It does not know, so it crams all these kind of genres together in hopes that people will enjoy themselves. But to me, it was very off-putting. It never felt like it gelled together. When it had the comedy, and it was Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson doing their kind of personality kind of attributes or whatever, it still wasn't funny. And if that's what they wanted to go for, that's fine. Just kind of make a funnier movie. But then there'd be like some really like violent shit, and then it turns into more of an action thriller. But then that violence would have more of a comedic edge from, you know, whatever Sam comes out of his mouth. So it's like, well, is it a dark comedy? But then you would have like some fucking flashbacks and some, you know, building a backstory that was actually pretty heartfelt, and it was almost like romantic. And then you have some that was like almost like drama based, where like if you spun this movie around, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, if you spun this movie around and made it more of a drama thriller, it would have been 10 times better. And if you just cut out the comedy altogether, now I'm not saying you have to be like completely just like stone-faced and be, you know, a fucking zombie throughout your whole thing. You can have comedic relief. Relief is different from making your film a full-fledged comedy. If they made it just serious, I would have actually taken the movie more seriously, because the movie opens up with Ryan Reynolds doing his thing, and then it would cut to Gary Oldman's introduction, and it was fucking dark as shit. And they played it like straight up like serious, because usually in these types of movies you'll have like a villain that would like in a serious situation still say like funny quips. No, it played out like a straight up like terrorist movie, and I was like, what am I watching? And so from that introduction right there, I already automatically knew this movie was in trouble. So axe the comedy, but if you wanted to do comedy, it needs to be better. To be quite frank with you, instead of a raunchy comedy, if you made it more of a dark comedy, I probably would have accepted it, but I would have rather had you have a genre shift and make it more serious, and it would have been passable. But the comedy hinders this movie, and it actually takes my grade down for it. Because as much as I like Samuel L. Jackson, Ryan Reynolds, they have these big personas. They try too hard. Sam Jackson, I love you to death, and you do like 80 movies a year. But your motherfucker, type of humor, it's not working anymore. It has become stale, and it just seemed like it was just so forced. Like Patrick Hughes was like, "Hey Sam, do that thing that people like." "All right, motherfucker," and it's like, okay, like there were some lines of dialogue that was like, it just felt so forced. I was like, I don't even think Sam wanted to say motherfucker, but that just goes with the whole story structure. And that with the tone clashing, it makes the movie seem longer because you're just disinterested. And it's a simple story. It's just transporting from destination A to destination B. But the movie felt like it was 4 hours long. It should have been an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, and it probably would have been a lot better even with that. So yeah, I thought the tone clashing hindered on the storytelling, which felt like 20 years long instead of what it was, which was almost 2 hours long. This movie should have never been 2 hours. And I guess if I had to, like I said, jump into some positives, I sound like a negative fucking Nancy right now. Some of the positives is that the action scenes were actually really well done. Little too loud in the theater. Sound design, crank that down a little bit. But Expendables 3 was garbage. And everything looked like CGI, like a CGI hot mess in that movie. Now, I will get to that negative in just a second, but for the most part in Hitman's Bodyguard, I thought the action was like a complete step up from the Expendables 3. It was really well done. And what I liked about Patrick Hughes' direction in this, if I had to pick out another positive, is the focus on a lot of backstory, building these characters, and I actually was invested in some of the backstory shit. That's what I'm saying, like, concentrate on that. Make it more of a drama. It would have fucking worked. Anyways, going back to negatives. Speaking of CGI, there's a couple shots that almost look like Jaws 3D status. It looks terrible. I cannot fucking believe they allowed that to go into the final print of this film. Like I said, action, humongous step up from Expendables 3. But some of that CGI was fucking atrocious, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. And speaking of CGI, some of those CGI scenes were fucking overblown as hell. I don't understand what Patrick Hughes' obsession was with having these like overexposed, like wide ass shots to to where like you couldn't really see anything, and like stuff was just overlit, and I was like, this is like amateur student film shit. You are a big Hollywood, studio making a movie. Don't make your films look like the shit I made in college. So, and I guess another positive, and I'll let Joel take over, and I'll give my grade after Joel's done. Regardless of what I think of the movie's tonal clashing, or the structure slowing down, or the story just being very thin and not really having that much meat to it, it was entertaining to see Sam Jackson and Ryan Reynolds. I firmly believe if they were not in this movie would have sucked harder than it already did. And if they were not in it and they casted other people, it wouldn't be that enjoyable. Because at least like with their comedy not hitting, I was still enjoying like their presence, if that makes any sense. Like I was still enjoying like Sam and Ryan's kind of essence in the film. Not really like their comedy so much, but I enjoyed like just their presence. And then of course, if I had to pick a favorite, believe it or not, I wish there was more of her in it, was Salma Hayek's character. She was a nice little breath of fresh air. I don't know, she just played like kind of like that badass in jail as best as she could. But yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts on it. So not really too many positives, a lot of negatives, and my grade's going to shock you, but I give a little precursor into my grade. The action scenes saved it, and the back and the kind of dramatic backstory. Those are the only things holding my grade to where it's at right now. But I'll explain when I get to my grade. So Joel, yeah, Hitman's Bodyguard, go for it.
Well, it's so funny. So with one exception, I just want to like copy and paste everything he said because we had the same thoughts. It's amazing. Chase and I try not to break protocol and tell each other what we think, and we didn't do that with either of the movies this week. I don't know what he thinks about Logan Lucky, for instance. So, but it's just funny because we have pretty much exactly the same thoughts across the board. I feel like at some point in the writing process, this was a dramatic action thriller.
It had to been. It fucking had to been, because the weird thing is, it felt so disjointed.
Yeah, because of the nature of Gary Oldman's performance. I believe that on the page, perhaps there was an earlier draft that they didn't completely change into a comedy, and they left this really off-putting, genocidal stuff, and war crime stuff, and humanity crime stuff in the screenplay. And so you have Gary Oldman, who's playing a genuinely menacing, not really super threatening, but genuinely menacing villain, and playing him as a genuinely menacing villain. Like, there's no moment of comedy or anything approaching it in the scenes in which he appears, which is something that I noticed. Every time he's on screen, even with the buddy comedy people like Ryan Reynolds or Samuel L. Jackson, it's not funny. It's completely played as straight. And then you have the action scenes, which, if they had been comedic, would have relied on dumb luck. And in this movie, all of the action is played straight. So it's an interesting thing to see the movie kind of take this super serious premise and apply it to what is essentially not actually an action comedy that's trying to be an action comedy. And you're totally right. I mean, the comedy does not fit here. It's lazy. It's honestly like commonly not funny. When it's trying to be. I think that that certain word that Samuel L. Jackson said. They were like, "Hey, you said this a lot in Pulp Fiction. Could you say it a lot in our movie?" And it just doesn't work. It's like you said, the action kind of raises my grade above what it might have been, and it's because of that I didn't hate the movie, but it's just such a generic action movie. It's it's better than Expendables 3, like you said, That movie sucked. But the only movie in the Expendables franchise that I liked was the second one, and I think they should have gotten that director to make this. But if they were picking, from from that arena, but yeah, it's not very good. It's Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson are fine for what they're given, but what they're given isn't very much. I think that they work together pretty well. But these aren't really performances, to be honest. I mean, they're just kind of riffing. That's all they're doing. There's maybe 2 or 3 moments for both, and they're very brief, where you can detect that they're actors performing. They're just basically comedians who happen to act, and are also not primarily comedians who are just doing a comedy routine for the whole thing, and it just doesn't fit with the rest of it. And I disagree about Salma Hayek. I thought that she was annoying and a complete intrusion upon everything else, and that the fact that her backstory is absolutely horrifying and it's played for a joke is another problem.
Oh my God. When that came up, I was already, because at this point I was already just so off put by the comedy mixed in with, like you said, the genocide drama, and I was like, what are they trying to go for here? This is just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also not just that backstory. It's Ryan Reynolds' backstory about how he met his love interest character, who's the Interpol agent. The thing that takes place at the funeral was horrifying and almost sadistic in its attempt to make you laugh. And it did not make me laugh. It was played against this weird, flowery song. It was all in slow motion. It was treating everything like it was funny.
You know what's weird about both of their backstories? Sam Jackson's backstory was amazing, and they should have made that into a movie. I don't understand, why both of them got, goofy backstories, but then he got, this serious, traumatizing one. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Right, and it's amazing because that didn't fit either.
No, it didn't. It was good, but it didn't fit.
It was good. It didn't fit. It felt like another sadistic backstory. And maybe on its own, if we hadn't learned anybody else's, it might be interesting. But it just kind of goes along with the other ones. It's just more serious. And you get, it's racially motivated, and it just comes across as kind of in bad taste. And, I mean, it's just so, and then, but obviously these are little things. And the main thrust of the movie is just this generic, road trip adventure thing.
Yeah.
And it's just not very good. The violence was honestly a bit much for this movie. I'm not saying that I'm some, I can't take violence. I know that this is actually...
Joel is definitely a prude. He does not like violence at all.
It's not gory violence. I just mean it just, do we need to see blood splatter on the camera violence in this movie? I just don't feel like we do.
Yeah. And
it gets a bit much, a bit extraneous to me. This movie is it's 2 minutes short of 2 hours, and that's too long. This needed to be 90 minutes.
Yep.
And they could have shaved off a lot of the repetitive car chases because there's too many, chases in general, there are too many of them. And it's just, yeah. So you go ahead and give your grade.
Yeah, so I have to say 2 more things and I'll give my grade. One,
okay.
The marketing. Stop it. You marketed this as an action comedy. There's more drama in this. Stop it. Number 2. Joel knows what I'm talking about. There is a faux one-shot action scene. It's not really a one-shot. There's many, many cuts in it, but it plays out like a one-shot. Stop trying to be like other movies. You did not warrant that one-shot. At least with Atomic Blonde, I didn't really care for the movie, but I was so invested into the choreography that was okay with me. It's okay, I expected it. They wanted to try it. It worked for me. It was one of the best parts about the movie. You did not warrant a one take. Fucking stop that. I do not mind one takes, but people have to understand you can't just throw it in there because you want to throw it in there. Okay? That also felt disjointed from the entire movie. At least with Atomic Blonde, the whole tone of it, it felt like it was a natural transition to that one shot. This was like, hey, one shots are popular. Let's fucking try it. So that's my second thing. So this is going to shock people. I do not recommend this movie at all. I don't even recommend it as a rental. But I'm not going to say it's one of the worst of the year. I know it's fucking weird. The action scene saved it. The Sam Jackson backstory saved it for me. The drama saved it for me. That is the only reason I'm not going to give it a D+, and I'll go a C-. I will go a heavy, hard C-. It is way below average, but I didn't feel comfortable with giving it a D anywhere in that range because I was like, there's worse films out there. And I will say that action-wise, it was a huge improvement over his last film. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. He was trying. It didn't work in other aspects, but it worked in that aspect for me. So I'm going to give it a very hard C-, not a D+. I was fighting it good, but I think a C- is fine with me. I do not recommend it at all. So Joel, what say you?
Basically, the same thing, except I'm going with a C. I'm just going to go directly middle of the road. I think that, like you said, the action kind of saves it, and I think that Reynolds and Jackson are fun enough that they stick out from the rest of the movie, honestly. But they're fun enough, and I think that it's competently made most of the time, except for the cinematography. I agree, looks awful, but yeah, I'm gonna go with a solid middle of the road C for this one. So that's that. Tell us what you thought of it if you saw it, or if you're going to see it. If you're not, then I guess don't bother, because don't bother seeing it.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Thanks.
Yeah. Tell
Words
us what
of wisdom from Mr. Copling over there.
Tell us what you thought of it if you don't see it. That's what I want. I'm just kidding. All right. So our next review is Logan Lucky. This one comes from director Steven Soderbergh, who was totally retired.
Totally retired.
Totally retired. Did absolutely nothing since Side Effects.
Nothing.
And this one stars a bunch of people there, but primarily Channing Tatum as a member, as one of the three Logan siblings, Jimmy, who is a contractor, and he loses his job due to a liability an insurance liability thing involving an injury. And so what he realizes is that he wants to have full custody of his daughter. So he wants to, because there's divorce stuff going on, and so he wants to rob the NASCAR racetrack during a race, and hires a bunch of people to that effect. And so there's also Adam Driver as his brother, Clyde, who has lost half of his arm. There's his sister Melly, played by Riley Keough, who is a hairdresser. She knows a lot about cars, so she makes kind of the perfect getaway driver if they need one. There is Daniel Craig as Joe Bang. I'm going to get to him in a second. Goodness me, like, who else is in this movie? It's so packed with people.
Catherine Waterston, you have Seth MacFarlane, you have Sebastian Stan, you have Hilary Swank. I mean, it's a pretty good little cast there.
It is. In the case of people like Catherine Waterston and Hilary Swank and Macon Blair, who shows up with Hilary Swank for some reason, I'm not going to give that away. These are characters I think that they're probably going to introduce for an intended sequel, because those are pretty high-powered actors, and they aren't big roles, and they are roles that seem to lead to something. I'm not going to get into that at all. I'll just tease that and move away from it, other than to say that I desperately want a sequel to this. But, I mean, yeah, it's an amazing cast with one exception, and I'm going to get into that in my negatives. And I only have a few negatives, but there is one member of the cast that will be in my negatives, because I think that he sticks out like a sore thumb. But let's get into this, because I really liked this movie. I was a huge fan of this movie. So, Chase, what were your initial thoughts?
I'm going to take a stab at the one person that you think is out of place, and I'm going to assume that he's really great at voice acting. So, listen, I like him to death, but I understand where you're coming from. But yeah, for Steven Soderbergh, for a guy that likes to retire a lot, he sure as fuck set his movie up to have a sequel, which will have him come out of retirement once again to do a said sequel. That was probably my favorite part about this movie. Was I was enjoying the movie. I was like, wow, this is a really great, entertaining film. And then when it ends the way it ends, I'm just like, I didn't want a sequel, but now I fucking want one. So Soderbergh did like this weird like reverse psychology where he was like, I'm going to give you a movie. I'm not going to even anticipate a sequel. I'm going to throw you an end, and then I hope you want a sequel. It's like, yeah, I kind of want a sequel now. And I think it's because the characters are so entertainingly enjoyable. Like, it's just fun to see these characters get into these situations and have them be like these, borderline stereotypical rednecks, doing this heist. It's just fun and sometimes funny just to watch them kind of interact with each other, going through this scenario, and it really works. I think their chemistry, for the most part, works all across the board. I think everyone plays off of each other very well. Never expected in a million years that Channing Tatum and Adam Driver would have like brotherly chemistry, but it works for this one. I like the story overall. It's what people are describing it as is the redneck Ocean's 11. That's definitely the case. It was just an enjoyable story from start to finish. The performances are out of this world. They're just so highly entertaining. Daniel Craig as Joe Bang. Jesus Christ, give this guy an Oscar for this. Like, this is so incredible that the suave, proper, dapper James Bond played a bleach blonde hick. Like, it's just, you don't see that. And, like, he completely just, like, sells the role and just makes you believe that what you're watching is not actors, but real-life people doing this real-life heist. I thought the heist was really cool. I loved everyone's kind of like contribution to the heist in terms of like, their smarts and their wit and just overall capabilities. I thought the story between Channing Tatum and his daughter was cute. It was adorable. Katie Holmes, she's whatever. I've really never been a huge fan of her. Yeah. So, she plays the mother of said daughter, and it's just a whatever. But that doesn't hinder everyone else's performances. It's just everyone was spot on. They knew what they were doing. They had fun with it. The cinematography, the way it looks, is typical Soderbergh. It's got like that very mainstream, artsy feel to it. He plays a lot with depth of field, and also focuses a lot on interesting camera placement and how everything is aligned, whether it be on the third mark or whether it be pushed off to the side or whether it's a canted angle. He has interesting cinematography, and that's the one thing that you can say about his films that does stand out amongst everyone else's is the visual look of it. It's crisp, it's clean, and he's got some interesting shot composition. That's what the word I was looking for. Composition, folks. It is early on a Sunday. The way he shoots his films are fantastic. And this fucking guy's like J.D. Salinger. I have a sneaky suspicion that not only did he shoot this movie, he fucking wrote it too. He's got a writer on this named Rebecca Blunt, whose only credit is this movie. His cinematographer alias name, I believe, is the one that's attached to this film. This guy works in such secrecy. It's amazing. He plays with our fucking minds, Joel, and it's just absolutely outstanding. He has fun with it. As far as negatives go, it's kind of weird. I don't really have much. Like, maybe the film felt a little too long, because like after the heist, it does kind of continue on for a little too long at the end, to where it could have been shortened just a hair, because after the heist, you kind of want everything to kind of wrap up and go. Everything does kind of wrap up, but it kind of takes a while, so I might just be nitpicking at this point, because I enjoyed the movie so much. It doesn't get into the A category for me, and that's the other thing I have to preface this as, is it's not like this mind-blowingly amazing film that everyone's kind of putting on that pedestal for. I think it's a very good movie. It's a very entertaining movie, and I really enjoyed it. I was telling Joel before we started recording, I can't wait to watch it again. It doesn't hinder my grade. It's just I'm firm in my grade. I won't change it. It's just like it is what it is type of deal. It doesn't reach that like excellent status for me, but overall, I mean, it's just an enjoyable ride. I mean, it's a heist film. You guys know how heist films work. Person's down on his luck, or it's a person that's good at heist and he's pulled in for one last job. Gotta assemble a team, get the plan together, do the heist, get away, and then you end your movie. I mean, there's really nothing more you can say about the story structure, but it is kind of interesting that Soderbergh plays it with people of the South and also, just kind of puts it in that environment, and that's what kind of makes it like that entertaining, borderline, like straight up like comedy and stuff. I guess that would be another nitpick, Joel. I guess as I'm talking about it, I would say like 90% of the time the comedy worked. Some of the times it didn't really hit. But the audience I watched it with enjoyed it, which kind of made me enjoy it like 10% more. That's the thing with comedies. There could be something that's just blatantly unfunny, but like the audience will enjoy it, and there's like a 5% part of you that kind of enjoyed that joke just because everyone else was enjoying it. The atmosphere does kind of help with this type of movie, and believe it or not, there was a lot of people in my audience, and I'm glad that people were supporting smaller films like this. I'm assuming when we get into the box office results, it didn't do that well because Soderbergh movies typically do not do that well. But as a director that has been retired many, many times and basically went over to Skinamax to do the Nick for like fucking 4 years, has come back and now has done this. He sets it up for a continuation. You son of a bitch, Soderbergh. You need to get on that. Do a Logan Lucky 2, or whatever the fuck you're going to call it. I will watch it any day of the week. So yeah, please continue on the story, because if you can create more entertaining films like this, I am totally on board. Now, Joel, let's get to you, because now I'm curious. Is the person that stuck out fucking Seth MacFarlane? Just tell me.
Yeah, it was. I'll get to why I'm a negatives. I want to start with the positives because there's a ton of these. I think that this is one of the best screenplays of the year. And you mentioned that you thought that Soderbergh wrote it. It may actually be his wife, Jules Asner, who wrote this. There have been a lot of stories about that coming out, that it was actually Jules Asner, who was formerly a host on E! And now has kind of left that and is doing film stuff. And I think that she wrote this screenplay. We don't really know, though. I mean, it's credited as Rebecca Blunt, much like Soderbergh did the cinematography, like you said. It is credited as Peter Andrews, did the editing, and is credited as whoever the editor is. And he's one of the hardest working people in any film avenue right now, like anybody. It's amazing, and he put so much work into this movie, and it pays off in droves. The cast, it's like the two major things that make this movie work are the precise plotting of the screenplay, yes, which I think does have a neat emotional component underneath, in that, and it's something that Soderbergh's been playing with since The Informant, which is an economic undercurrent, because here is a movie that, as you said, takes place in the South. It's been hit hard by, healthcare related and just economic downturn. The recession hit them hard, and it's that kind of story. And so desperation calls for extreme methods of making money, and here's their method. And I think that that's really valuable. I think that it gives it an emotional component so that we believe in every one of these characters. And that's where the movie really succeeds, is the characters and the actors. This is one of the happiest movies of the year. There is not a single negative bone in this movie's body. Like, it's amazing. We are able to completely get behind a robbery, a very, I don't want to say that robbery itself is innocuous, but I mean, come on. The reason that he wants to do this is a good thing. and the plan is just so innocuous that it's like it's not something you can rustle up any like negative emotion toward. It's one of those fun kind of just happy movies that it just does it's just so much fun to watch. And it's just so much fun to watch each of these, points of the plot, fill themselves out. And it's so much fun. And I want to get into the actors because I think that Channing Tatum is good. Soderbergh's worked with him solidly since Haywire, and it's a really great partnership between them because he's literally been in every movie since then. He was a small role in that one. He was the main character in Magic Mike. He was Rooney Mara's husband in Side Effects, and now he's in this. And it's a great partnership because he knows how to use Tatum's abilities so well. And Adam Driver's terrific. He's got this great put-on accent that is like just a couple of steps over the top, but not quite, over the top too much. And it's just he's a lot of fun. I thought that Katie Holmes was solid, and David Denman, who was Roy from The Office, is the new husband. I thought he was pretty good in his small role. The little girl is absolutely adorable and needs to be in everything now.
Oh, she was wonderful. Like when she came on screen, like the movie opens up with her, and it's like she commands the screen automatically.
Yeah, I mean it's an amazing role. It's and actually it's her role that made me notice this more than anybody else's. Is that and obviously this is something that Soderbergh's also been working toward during his career, is a mastery of regional language and dialect. And we see that in this kid. And that a kid is able to convey that through the performance is amazing. It sort of reminded me of Haley Steinfeld, just, much younger, in True Grit, mastering the Coen brothers language, which is a hard thing to do. And this sort of reminded me of that. I think that this kid has a real future. And so I really liked it whenever she came on the screen. I think her name is Farrah McKenzie. And I think she's been in stuff, but this is certainly the breakout role, kind of. I think that she's going to get some work because of this. And then you have, Hilary Swank, Catherine Waterston, Macon Blair, offering solid work in small roles on the edges. And then, they were so much fun. Jack Quaid and, oh man, what's the other guy's name? Let me look. The brothers of Daniel Craig's character, who have awesome names, by the way. There's Sam Bang, and yes, Bang is the actual last name. Brian Gleason. Brian Gleason is the other guy. Brian Gleason plays Sam Bang, and then Jack Quaid plays Fish Bang, which is such a great name. And yes, I believe that the Quaid is actually a family name. I believe that this is Randy Quaid's son, perhaps? Pretty sure. But yeah. Wait. Let me look that up. Let's see. Yep, he is the son of... Oh, no, he's the son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. And I did not know that Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan had a kid. But anyway, and he's younger than me. Now I feel old. But yeah, they were a lot of fun as sort of the wizards. Kind of, one of them's a tech wizard, the other one's just kind of help wizard, I guess, in this plan. But yeah, and then Sebastian Stan I thought was solid. He didn't have a big role or really a hugely important role, but I thought that when he came on, he was a lot of fun as this sort of straight-laced kind of hippie spiritual driver who's the rival of, yes, and I'm going to get into a negative right now, the one character I feel sticks out here, which is Seth MacFarlane as Max Chilblain, who is an uppity British driver. Here's the thing, I think that maybe the performance is fine in theory. I think that there could be a movie in which this character works, but for some reason I just felt that in this movie's tone, he stuck out. It was just a weird voice. I hear that it was like on the spot voice, that it wasn't written as British, and the character wasn't written as British, and he just kind of gave it a British accent, which kind of tells you everything about how much he sticks out. But I mean, he's fine for what he. I don't know. It's just a weird performance. It's frankly bizarre. Honestly.
I mean, my counter argument to that is like, I think it's because Seth MacFarlane does kind of play these over the top type of people with these over the top accents that it kind of works for like a spokesperson of what it looks like to be a shitty drink. Anyways, like it kind of fits with his character, who's kind of like he's like a goon. Like he's just like he's selling shit. Like he's just kind of like that snake oil businessman that's just like kind of over the top. But I don't know. It worked for me.
Okay, well,
you're like, well, fuck you.
That's understandable, I guess. I feel like just from the performance, which is it's just bizarre in ways that weren't enormously entertaining to me, and also the appearance, which is like 1980s Weird Al. It's just I don't know. It's just or maybe early 1990s Weird Al. I don't know if it's fully 80s, but it's just a weird thing, and I felt like he just stuck out rather than blending into this cast. He just stuck out a bit. But obviously, the highlight of the cast is Daniel Craig, and this is one of my favorite performances of the year. It's sort of similar-ish to how I felt about Lil Rel Howery in Get Out. This goofy side character who is the comic relief, but is also good enough in the role that he doesn't just settle for the comic relief. The roles aren't all that deep or whatever, but there's so much like charisma and personality to their performances that it's just infectious. And so it's honestly like right now a close call for me with my supporting actor choice, because it's between these two. And with Daniel Craig, I mean, every single moment he's on screen is absolute gold. The guy's command of physical comedy with this body frame that doesn't usually apply to physical comedy, at least to me. He's very built, as built as he is as James Bond, really. Maybe even more so. And it's just, he's so fun. I mean, he's a smart guy. He has a real, control of science, as we see in a really funny, like, pause in the middle of the scene so he can explain something. That's great. I mean, it's just such a fun performance that I'm just laughing thinking about it. The line, "I am incarcerated." It's just like great, and I love it. Oh, and we forgot to mention this, and it's like the most random appearance in the movie. He hasn't really been in anything since I think Panic Room, but Dwight Yoakam is in this as the warden of the prison that Daniel
doesn't want
Craig
to let anything happen to his prison. So if something's happening, he's like, that never happens here.
It just doesn't happen here. He's in total denial, and it's so funny. It's a really, really solid performance. It's not. There's not much to it. He's not in the movie a lot, but it's very well.
But his running joke is one of the better jokes in the movie.
Exactly. I mean, it's so funny that he's in just complete denial about anything going wrong in his precious prison.
And then in the movie, this isn't spoiling anything because you guys don't know the context, but then, towards the end, he's like, all right, fine, call it in. Like, he just gives up. He's like, whatever, just call it in.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like such a deflating moment for him because he realizes this is what he's got to do, but he just doesn't want to do it at all. And it's so funny. And, I mean, it's just, I love this guy. And anyway, but yeah, Daniel Craig is the absolute standout in a great cast. And I don't know, I loved him. And then, getting into like the filmmaking, great cinematography. He's done this for a while now, where it's like almost caramelized, kind of that kind of feel, where it's not the harsh cinematography of a lot of comedies right now. Think of the Adam Sandler comedies that are a lot of sharp like colors and bland colors, honestly, all together, and it just doesn't look good. This one looks great, and the editing is swift. I love how there's basically, until the end, I'm going to get to the end in a minute, until the end, there's really nothing like extraneous in the storytelling, which I found, again, the precision of the plotting here is really compelling, and I found that refreshing. So getting into the negatives beyond Seth MacFarlane, which is really kind of a little one, I think that there is a problem in the home stretch of the movie, because on the one hand, it explains, and I'm not going to give anything away, but the movie conceals a lot from us until the end, and then it explains all of that, and I feel like that is a gamble in terms of a storytelling decision, and I feel like it doesn't quite clinch that. It shows us a lot of things and tells us at the same time, and I think that there can be a problem there, and I think that here there's a little bit of a problem. It stretches the length a little bit, like you said. This one is 1 minute short of 2 hours, and I think it could have been an easy 100, honestly. Like one of those clean 100-minute movies that people are always like, oh, this is a 100-minute movie. Like Drive, for instance, was 100 minutes perfectly, and there was nothing extraneous there. Here, that's when it's just the example I like to use. In this one, it goes on a little bit. The other problem is, as much as I'm looking forward to a sequel, this movie spends a little too much time at the end building up to a sequel. I think that it...
I don't know. I thought it... I don't know. I thought it kind of fit, where it's like everything was like good, hunky dory, and then like you throw that little wrench in there. Like, I kind of want to see the continuation of this.
No. It's not that I don't want to see it. And that's sort of, there's a thin line between what I'm talking about here. So there's excitement to see a sequel, and then there's using storytelling to build up to a sequel for 20 minutes. And that's basically what they do here. And in the midst of
okay, I'll give you that, because you're right. It does kind of play in with like the overstretching of the conclusion a little bit, and I get that.
If there was, for instance, and again, I'm not going to give anything away, but there is a series of characters who receive something, and I feel like those are the characters who are going to play some sort of role in the sequel. And I think that if we had just gotten that in like in a montage role of stuff of the images of those people, receiving that would have been cleaner. And then maybe that, the very, very, very last scene. But they go on a little bit too long with this. So it does drop my grade down just a little bit, but just a little bit. That's the the main phrase there. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a precise piece of storytelling until that point. And so I really like this. And I'm curious to hear your grade.
Yeah, so...
I feel like I know what your grade is from what you've said, but I'm curious to hear it.
Yeah, because I've been battling it between the two. I think you know which two I'm going to go for. I'm not going to lie. One of the things I always account to in my grade is rewatchability. If I find a movie like super enjoyable and it has that rewatchability factor, even if it's not like a straight up like comedy or whatever, and even if it's like a drama and it's still rewatchable, and it has like endless conversations that you can have within kind of like our community and whatnot, I really take that into account. This film is endlessly rewatchable. It really is. And so I was thinking on my walk home yesterday, I was like, that was a solid B movie. It was a good movie. But I gotta give the uptick to a B plus for two reasons. One, it's highly enjoyable, and I feel like it would be one of those kind of rewatchable movies that I can see myself popping on at any moment, which is always a plus. Because if you watch a movie once and you go, I'm one and done with that, that can hinder a grade. That could be like, well, I mean, it's like a one-time thing. I don't know if I really want to go back to it. It's like a one-night stand. You know, you really don't want to go back to it in some cases, or, you know, the person just didn't gel with you on the date. With Logan Lucky, it's like, I kind of want to date this person a little bit more. Get to know it a little bit more, dissect it in terms of his filmmaking, or, you know, just watch it for its performances, or just have it on in the background for God's sake. So, rewatchability. And two, because, yeah, the end was a little too long, but I gotta tell you, like, as I was watching, I was like, this is a solid movie. I really like what I'm watching. But the fact that Soderbergh threw in that wrench at the end that was like, there's a possibility of a continuation, I was like, you know what? I wasn't thinking about a sequel, but I'll fucking take it. Because as I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, this could go in a lot of different directions. Like, it actually got me excited thinking about possible storylines that you could kind of play with. So, for those two reasons alone, I'm going to give Logan Lucky... Okay, also, caveat. As of right now, not in my top 10 of the year. And as of right now, I don't think it's like this masterpiece that everyone's saying it is, but it is a fantastic film. It's a great film, whatever other adjective you want to use, and I'm going to give Logan Lucky a B+. I think that's what I'm going to settle on. Not a hard B+, but like a soft B+, where it's like, I don't feel comfortable just giving it a B. It's like, there's a lot of great attributes to this that I was like, you know what? I'll give Soderbergh the uptick on this one. I think he deserves it. Because you're right. Like, Soderbergh is one of those people that, like, regardless if you like his movies or not, he puts a lot of passion into his films, and that is really infectious with me. And I feel like he had a lot of fun with this. He worked his ass off on the cinematography and editing and writing, as well as directing and whatnot. So I'm gonna give it a B+, a soft B+.
I'm going with a B+ as well, and I think that this is a top 10 contender. I consider anything to be a top 10 contender that gets a B+ or above. And yeah, I mean, I pretty much have the same points. It's so well plotted, so much fun. If he can make a sequel to this that's as good as Ocean's 12 was, I'm going to be very happy, because I love Ocean's 12. I mean, I love all three of those movies, but Ocean's 12 is my favorite of the three because it's so odd, and it's a commentary on sequels, and it's so much fun. So if he can do like a Logan Luckier,
that actually fits so well for that universe. Logan Luckier.
Logan, a trilogy. Logan Lucky, Logan Luckier, Logan Luckiest.
Oh my fucking God. Hire Joel for the ride, Soderbergh. Are you listening? Like, that was genius.
I am willing to work under the name of Rebecca Blunt.
I would too, actually.
Right? Because that would associate me with Rebecca Ferguson and Emily Blunt, and I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan, and it's a lot of fun. Whether a sequel happens, we'll have to see, because as far as I remember, Ocean's 11 was a minor hit. It wasn't huge that year, and it spawned 2 sequels. So Logan Lucky, we're about to find out, didn't really do very well, but it also didn't cost very much to make it. So I think that it's very possible that we could see a couple more. And if they make a trilogy, I'm so down, because I want to see these characters again in a new movie, and I'm very happy with it. So that's the movies that we were reviewing for you guys. And it's funny because we've done like 2 or 3 a week for 3 weeks in a row, and it's because the next 2 weeks we don't really have traditional reviews. So we're kind of filling you guys up with reviews until, you know, we come back a couple weeks from now with It.
Oh yeah. Which
we're reviewing over the weekend of on the 10th, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The box office is next, and I'm going to. It's Chase's week to guess. So I'm going to give him the hint. There were a lot of movies that expanded, and there were some movies that opened, you know, limited. But really, the 3 major ones, and you can pretty much count one of these out, but the 3 major ones, obviously, were the 2 that we just reviewed, The Hitman's Bodyguard and Logan Lucky, and then Patty Cakes opened in limited release this week. So obviously, you can count out Patty Cakes, because that only opened in 14 theaters. But let's hear your guess as to what the top 5 is, Chase, or top 5 are.
Oh God. I'm terrible at this every single week, as you guys know. So I'm gonna try my best. Try my fucking damnedest, because I always fuck up and forget one movie each week. So congratulations, Chase. Talking to myself in the third person in the future, I'm gonna fuck up again. All right. So I don't think Logan Lucky even made it into the top 5, which is really saddening. Because that's a way better movie than Hitman's Bodyguard, which I actually do think is in there somewhere. So I'm going to say number 1. I'm going to say it was another shit week, just like the Dark Tower week, and I'm going to say number 1 was the Hitman's Bodyguard. 2... I'm going to say Dunkirk is holding in there. 2 is Dunkirk.
Wait. Come on.
No, don't do that to me. Don't fucking do that to me, Joel, because now you're gonna get me all frazzled.
I'm not what number 2 is. I'm just saying, remember what's come out.
Son of a bitch! Fuck! Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. See, this is what happens when there's like fucking 3 movies each week. That's like 15 fucking movies you gotta remember each month. So it's more like 12. There you go with my math. All right. Number 2 is Annabelle Creation. Yes, because that definitely held up. But then again, that made a lot of money last week, and I don't think it dropped too much. So actually, I'm gonna switch it. Annabelle Creation is number 1. Hitman's Bodyguard is number 2. And that was the only major release last weekend, so I think I'm good there. Oh shit, I forgot about that one. Fuck. Okay, hold on. Number 1, Hitman's Bodyguard. Number 2, Dunkirk. Number 3 is The Nut Job 2.
Wait, okay. Start over again.
No, Joel, don't do that to me.
No. You keep forgetting Annabelle, so I just wanted to say that. You started over and you forgot Annabelle again.
No, I said number 2.
Oh, you said number 2. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Okay, so, wait, no, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch that. Never mind. Annabelle's number 1. Number 1 is Annabelle. I'm sticking with that. Number 2 is Hitman's Bodyguard. I'm sticking with that. Number 3 is probably going to be Penis Job 2, because that's the only really kids film out besides, the shit movie. So I'm going to say that's number 3. Number 4 is Dunkirk. And number 5, I'm actually going to say the Emoji Movie snuck above Logan Lucky, which, rest in peace, America. You fucking did it. All right, so that's my 5.
All right, you are completely wrong.
Shit.
All right. Well, not completely wrong. You guessed number 4 was Dunkirk, right?
Yes.
Okay, you got that one right. That is number 4. All right, so number 5 is The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature, with $5.1 million for a total of $17 million domestically, and that's all I have. I actually don't think it's opened overseas yet. And of course, that has a $40 million budget, so whatever. All right, and then number 4 is Dunkirk with $6.7 million. It's hanging in there. It's got a domestic total of 165.5 and a worldwide total of 392.7. That's pretty awesome. Number 3 is Logan Lucky.
Oh wow, it actually made it in there. Thank you.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. So it's got a $29 million budget, which isn't too bad. It made $8 million.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, not very good. And it doesn't have a worldwide total because I think it opens next week worldwide. I'm not sure about that. And then number 2 is Annabelle Creation with 15.5 for a domestic total of 64 and a worldwide total. Now, just a reminder that this movie has a $15 million budget. It's at 160.7 million worldwide.
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers knows what they're doing, and they're about to do it again with It in a few weeks. That's probably going to be even bigger, though. And then number 1, The Hitman's Bodyguard, with $21.6 million. It's got a $29 million budget, so it's already doing pretty well. It's not got worldwide figures yet. But anyway, it's almost made its budget back. I feel like another week it's probably going to surpass that and be on its way to breaking even. And then, of course, it's got to do, advertising and all that. But yeah, so that's the box office, the main box office. And I did want to say that because Patty Cakes opened and it's kind of a high-profile indie that it opened in 14 theaters and made $66,000.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, which isn't very good. It's 4,700 in each theater, which isn't very good. I don't know when I'm seeing that. I assume that I'm probably going to be renting it because I don't think that I'll be able to make it out to the theaters. We'll see. Maybe it'll open nearer than Dallas, but as of right now, I don't have any concrete plans. I did want to say, I always try to pinpoint movies that rise over 150%. Usually those are indie movies, and in this case, you had two cases. Brigsby Bear opened in its fourth week with 159,000, and it rose 211%.
Yes.
It gained 371 theaters. So I haven't seen that. I know Chase is a huge fan of that one, and I definitely plan to rent it if I don't catch it in theaters. And then the other one that rose an exorbitant amount is Wind River, which rose 385.9% in its third week because it added 649 theaters.
Nice.
So it's at 3 million. I'm sorry, no, it made 3 million. It's at 4.1 million, and it's got an $11 million budget. Obviously, Weinstein's not too super duper worried about something like this making money, but it's doing pretty well. I think it's probably going to be one of those that only needs to make like $20 million.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good, and that's the one that I'm seeing tomorrow before Chase and I are seeing a screening, and I'm seeing Wind River right before that. So I'm looking forward to that because I'm a big fan of Taylor Sheridan, the screenwriter who directed it, and so that's pretty much it on the news. I will say that in big drops, there's really only one. And that was Detroit dropped 70.5% this week.
Jesus.
But it lost 1,500 theaters. So
wow,
not a huge surprise. It made 850,000 this week, and that's for a total of 15 million on a $34 million budget. So it's not doing well. But
I gotta be honest, like, we're not going to ever get political on this show, but I'm pretty sure that the riots last week probably affected it pretty well to where people did not want to go see a movie that's pretty much doing exactly what they witnessed with the riots.
Yeah, that's what I suspect happened too. I was actually about to bring it up, and I'm sure that once I bet you anything that some executive at Annapurna, whenever they saw the riots happening, thought in the back of their mind, oh well. This is not going to bode well for Detroit, and it dropped 6 places from 13 to 19. So, jeez. I mean, it's not doing very well. But so that's pretty much it. It's kind of an unbusy week. Beyond the fact that there were a couple of releases, in terms of anything notable, it wasn't a hugely busy week at the box office this week. Just a couple of neat little rises there of movies that definitely will get audiences like us who enjoy it. Who enjoy that kind of thing, like Wind River and Brigsby Bear, and then the big releases did well. That kind of like the most generic story ever of the box office this week. Movies that needed to do well did well, and movies that dropped big time in many cases, and then the 2 releases did well. So.
Yeah, and speaking of the box office, there's really not much coming out next weekend. So,
right.
What we're seeing now in the top 5 is probably going to carry over into next weekend as well.
There is one wide release next week, and that is the animated movie Leap.
Joel, that was cute. You actually thought that was gonna. You said that in such a tone to where you're like, that's probably gonna make the top 5. No, it's not.
I don't know. It could.
It could, but I don't think it will.
It's an animated movie with nothing else against it.
True.
But I don't know if it'll be number 1. I honestly feel like it's going to be a weird situation where everybody goes to see Annabelle Creation again, and this one it like misses a week at the top, and then it's back at the top. I feel like that's probably what's going to happen because it didn't drop an enormous amount. It wasn't one of the ones that did this week, and so I feel like it's probably going to ride that good word, but. Here's the funny thing. The weekend of September 1st has no wide releases. So that's going to be interesting to see if like anything at all shifts.
Well, I mean, that's also Labor Day weekend, so I highly doubt anyone will. There's not going to be that many people that go anyways, or if they do go to the theaters, they're just going to catch up on the shit that they missed.
Yeah, pretty much. So we're going to see some like random little, rises probably maybe, some other like mid-level drops. I will say, like, in terms of my website over that weekend, I am taking a break for the first time in a while. I'm not reviewing anything that weekend because I'm catching up for one of our podcasts on Netflix stuff. So I'm focused. All of my energy is focused on that particular weekend. So I will not even be one of the people who sees things. I mean, that's very unusual for me. Even the empty weekends of January, I'll see something. But I'm taking a break and just kind of refocusing. My job is getting very busy, so I'm doing that, and that's the weekend of a big sale. So I'm gonna be busy, and so I can say that. And I'm only seeing 2 this coming week. So really, like once mid-September hits, it's gonna be like bunches of reviews every week. But yeah, I mean it's kind of going to be a dead zone here for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. Now, 2 weeks from now, it will be a complete dead zone, and I will even contemplate if we even want to do one in general. But next week, Joel, is exciting because next week, we're not reviewing Leap. Sorry for all you Leap fans with exclamation points. Sorry. The only exclamation point movie that I'm looking forward to is Mother. But speaking of Mother and the upcoming fall releases, that's what we'll be doing next week with Carrie Darling, who always comes on and does it with us. So we'll have a three-way battle to where we will basically just go over every single weekend, and we'll probably pick our top 3 anticipated for the rest of the year. So it will be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that one for sure. I know Joel is. So that will be next week, and then I don't fucking know. Like, Joel, let's do this live on air right now. Would you want to take a break Labor Day weekend? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our original plan was to do the Netflix summer releases that kind of dropped. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where we could do that, or we could just kind of take a break because I'm gonna have a busy weekend. It's gonna kind of be empty. There's not gonna be much discussion. There might not honestly be anybody who listens on that day because it's right in the midst of the weekend. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of up in the air. A couple weeks from now, what we're gonna do. But
we'll decide. And even if we take a break, I might just get on like in my drunken state or whatever and review something. But something will go up. I don't know what it will be, but I don't think it'll. If it is a full-fledged show, it will definitely not be as long as what we're typically used to, but that's okay. Every once in a while, I'll give Joel a break because he's a human being. I guess he needs to rest. But anyways, speaking of Joel over there, that is the end of the show. And so, Joel, where can the people find you online?
You can find me at Twitter at RealJoelCopling. I'm always rambling on about various things there, and then you can find my writing at Joel on Film. In addition to The Hitman's Bodyguard and Logan Lucky, I also reviewed Columbus, which is a great drama starring Haley Lou Richardson and John Cho. It kind of made waves among certain indie audiences earlier this year, and it's coming back around for its release, and it's quite good. I would urge everybody to seek that out. And then also Pilgrimage, which was the period drama that we sort of talked about the trailer of a few weeks ago with Tom Holland and John Bernthal. It was okay. Wasn't a huge fan. But yeah, I've got those reviews. And then you can also find my writing, although not this week, at DallasMovieScreenings.com, for which we are the official podcast. And you can also find me at Letterboxd at jcopling. So that's where I am.
Yep, that is correct, and all of his stuff will be in the links in the description below, as well as all my shit in the description below, which is at Real Chasely is my Twitter. My YouTube page has If you want to go check out my review of Rememory or Wind River, stuff that we haven't talked about, all my stuff is there. You can go check that out. And then, of course, for this particular show, please like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever the hell you guys do, because you guys are awesome. You guys are spreading this around like a fucking virus on the internet, which Joel and I appreciate. We are the good virus on the internet. But hey, listen, if you made it through this entire movie podcast, and you are not a movie fan, well, hopefully we convince you to be one, because that is our main goal, is to make you guys as passionate as we are about movies. They run our lives, but that's okay. Joel and I accept it. We are submissive to the film. Yep, that's what we are. Anyways, this is episode 196, guys. We are 4 away from episode 200. Quite exciting. And then, of course, in November, we will hit the 4-year anniversary mark. Jesus Christ. All right, so that will do it for this week's episode, guys. All the links will be in the description below. And speaking of that, the intro and outro music is done by my friends band Fervent Roze. Them in the description below. Check it out, everyone. Peace out. Next week, fall movie preview. Get ready, motherfuckers. See, you thought that I wouldn't end with that because Samuel L. Jackson said it like 50 goddamn times in the movie, but I sure as fuck did. See you guys next week. You guys are awesome.
Bye.